Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by JV Gwaltney.
Hi, everyone.
And Skyping in from beautiful San Francisco, Imran Khan.
Howdy.
In a new location, Imran.
This is a new apartment, yes.
Okay, so if the acoustics sound different, blame his lack of furniture in the new apartment.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, great. We have a hell of a show coming up here. We're going to talk about Borderlands 3, which, JV, you've played at some point, yes?
Yeah, I played at E3.
There we go.
Like 20 minutes.
Perfect. And Imran got to play a hell of a lot more of new stuff. And then, JV, you're red hot on a game called Ion Fury.
Yep, from 3D Realms.
Formerly known as Ion Maiden.
Ion Maiden, okay. Yes. And then a lawsuit from a little band changed everything.
Okay, very confusing. Kyle wants to come in here and talk about Double Fine's new game, Rad, which I'm excited about. Then some fun community emails, the back half of the show. I'm very into this. Call of Duty 4 Game Club. We asked the community to play along with us, and by golly, a lot of people did. They sent in a ton of emails, very smart stuff. I love it, JV. I love these game clubs because it's like, anybody brings up Call of Duty 4, they say, oh, great campaign. Oh, that nuke. Oh, all gillied up, huh? All right, time to move on. But hell no. Like with this, we dive in for an hour and a half and go through every detail we possibly can with Call of Duty 4.
Yeah, I revisited that recently. Me and Serial both did when the remaster came out. We both played it to do features for the site and review and stuff. And yeah, that still holds up mostly.
Yeah,
I feel
absolutely.
like its failures are interesting to talk about too, like the stuff where it really flags behind. Anyway, all this is to say I'm very interested in watching this part of the podcast.
That's very
later.
sweet. Yeah, and if you like Game Club, tell a friend about it, please. We love doing it. It's intense. Okay, let's start out with Borderlands 3. Imran, what did you get to play here?
I played through the beginning of the game for about 2 hours with the new, or I guess not new hunter, but thus far unplayable hunter Flak. And then I played a mission a bit deeper into the game that featured Ice-T.
Okay, those are good headlines. JV, which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about Flak, because the demo I played at E3, you played as Zane, which is like the new sort of gadget-heavy character who's all about throwing up decoys and stuff, basically like Mirage from Apex.
Okay, sure.
So let's talk about Flak. What makes Flak different?
So Flak is a Beastmaster. So he always has a pet of some sort near him. You can choose the kind of pet. It's one of 3 kinds. So it's either a skag, a spider ant, or a jabber.
That's cool.
So they are just on their own. The AI controls them, and they attack enemies on their own. They have their own health bar. But you can choose to use or like interact with them with certain moves. Like you could direct them to certain enemies, target them. The jabber, whoever you direct them to, he will throw a barrel of radioactive waste at them, like Donkey Kong.
Huh. Does it seem like, is Flak the most different of the new batch, do you think?
He is. So basically, what it kind of feels like to me is like they took Gage from Borderlands 2 and they split her up into 2 characters. So now there's Mose with the actual mech, and there is like a side character called with Flak. So it's a bit like that. They kind of described it as being sort of like Pokemon as the inspiration of, we want you to have different monsters and pull them out in different scenarios.
That sounds really cool.
Well, of course. If anybody references Pokemon, it's like, all right, you got me. I think that's an interesting
He's voiced
pitch.
by Prosed, right? I think that's a thing. He's the guy we did a gamer interview with him, the popular YouTuber.
Prosed.
Sungwon Cho?
Oh, ProZD.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think he voices Flak.
That would make sense. Now that I think about it, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And where do you stand on Flak being spelled with a 4 instead of an A?
I don't like it.
Don't like it. Okay.
I mean, it's fine. It's annoying to write because you always have to you do the capitalization and then the 4 and
yeah. We get the hot 4K SEO on YouTube though for all those new gameplay todays we did. So that's really helpful, I think, overall. What did you think of the game? Did you learn something new or new impressions or anything like that?
So I'm excited now that I've played all the hunters at this point. I've played through Amara, the other all the other people, Mose and all that. Now that I see the interplay between all those hunters, like, okay, now I don't know which one I'm going to choose for the actual game because they all seem kind of fun, and I'm very excited for my friends and I to get together and all choose like one each. It's like, okay, well, I really want to try this guy, or this is the character I'm going to bring in for our campaign.
Right. Just like a fun roll of the dice to figure out who gets who, and it's like, all right, you're committed to Flak, no way out. You have to learn to love the beast.
Pretty much, and I'm having played a couple of boss fights now, they've definitely taken feedback on the boss fights so they know. Because Borderlands 1 and 2 do not have good boss fights, 1 especially. But 3 tries to fix up a little bit by making it so you constantly have to be moving around. There's always things in the area to shoot. So like the boss fight in the Ice-T mission is basically a giant mech. And it's constantly shooting out little turrets around it, like a kind of a Macross sort of thing, that are shooting lasers at you. So if you're playing with friends, you can tell your friends, okay, well, we're not winning if you don't focus on the shooting down his lasers and you don't focus on shooting down the ads. And I'm DPS, so I'll do damage to the boss. So they're working on making that a lot more strategic this time, and that seems very exciting.
Yeah. Okay, so it's weird that a marketing bullet point now is, hey, Ice-T's in the game.
It is. So it's weird because they didn't say it at first, and I didn't realize it until I was like in the game and I was like playing through the mission, and I ended up turning around to somebody who was like one of the 2K guys. I was like, "Hey, is that Ice-T?" And he just like very matter of factly, like it was like a preposterous question to ask. Like, yeah, of course it's Ice-T.
It's Borderlands 3. It's Ice-T. He's all over the place.
Yeah, like why would we not have why would we not have the guy from Gears of War 3?
Yeah, exactly. So he's just like an NPC in the game?
Yeah, he is Balex, which is a navigational AI on a abandoned crashed ship.
So maybe Ice-T exists within the Borderlands universe, and they just modeled the AI on the actual Ice-T?
That is my headcanon.
Okay, all right, that's pretty good. It's so weird. So all the cameos they've announced so far, it's Ice-T, and then Penn and Teller are in the game as well, I believe. They're like at some... Oh, what is it? There's some pun where they have some sort of theater where it's like a torture situation or something. And then I think that they said, maybe Penn Jillette just said it on his podcast, that Teller does a voice of one character in the game, but they're not going to reveal who it is. Which is
I don't like that. I don't. Now that you told me that, I'm not happy about it.
Get ready for your skin to crawl as you're playing through the game, trying to figure it out. What about the game overall? Do you think it's funny?
The humor is better than Borderlands 2. I don't know that I would say
Low
it's
bar.
good.
Okay. Maybe I just was too close to Dan Reichert when that game came out and he gave it a 9.75 here at Game Informer, but I feel like when that game came out, people were like, Borderlands 2 was funny, and now the tides have fully shifted where it's just the Twitter Illuminati or like that game was the least funny thing I've ever seen in my life.
No, it's not the least funny thing ever, but I played it when it came out in like, 2011, 2012?
Yeah.
And I was like, a lot of this doesn't work. I think it's mostly like the very meme-specific bits don't work that well.
Okay.
But I don't think it's like... I've played games that try to be funny and are much worse at it.
Okay. Did you cringe at any point, Imran?
Not that I recall.
Okay, great.
Like when Claptrap is on screen, I'm like, I just want to get this over with.
Yeah.
I'm hopping around and doing other things and trying to like break the environment in some way because I don't care what Claptrap has to say.
Yeah. Sweet. Any other big takeaways from your time playing the game?
They did have. So I did ask the some of the developers if they plan to nerf anything in the future because there was a thing with Borderlands 2 where because it's not a competitive game, so it doesn't make sense to take items and make them worse. But they said like, well, we don't want people using only one kind of loadout, so that's what we're afraid of. But we will do our best not to nerf anything.
That's a weird degree. Okay, I guess that's fine. When is that game coming out?
September.
That is coming out mid-September.
That's so quick.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be playing that game very soon.
It was only announced in April, so
That's
it's
so wild, man. Well, hey, you captured what, 3 or 4 hours of gameplay from that session?
just over 3 hours. Yeah.
That's insane. If you want to watch all that, if you're a hardcore Borderlands fan, which is showing like the opening of the game and stuff beyond, we have it within the shell, which I guess is what we call the story here. So if you go to GameInformer.com and check out the new gameplay today, we have a shortened version with commentary and then the long uncut version as well.
Before we move on, I want to ask Imran a question.
Please.
Did you see Reese or Vaughn or anyone from Tales from the Borderlands?
So I saw a Reese in a previous demo,
Okay,
where he was like, it was just a hologram, but he's kind of directing you and giving you missions. Vaughn was in this demo. He's very early on in the game.
Is he still Swole?
Yes, he's still the head of the bandits, but they've like betrayed him to join the enemies.
That
so
sounds
he
about
joins
right.
your group.
Okay.
That seems fun.
He does have his old voice actor. I don't remember the voice actor name offhand, but he is not replaced as far as I know.
Okay.
Interesting. You know, it came out yesterday. No Man's Sky Beyond.
Oh yeah.
And none of us have had a chance to play it yet, but it's just absurd what Hello Games is doing. They have another huge free update. I feel like they satiated that community a while ago. I understand there are a lot of people with high expectations at launch, and then they realized what they were missing. patched in a lot of those details, and now it's just like, we'll just keep going because people keep buying No Man's Sky, so why not keep working on
I
it?
checked like
I was
2
gonna ask,
hours
like,
ago.
is this financially viable to keep doing this? Like, are the people
Yeah.
like, are they getting more sales from each other?
Yeah, it's number 1 on the Steam seller charts today.
Who doesn't know No Man's Sky at this point? It's wild. Yeah, because I talked to Sean Murray back at GDC, and, he didn't give exact numbers, but he said that, when they launched No Man's Sky Next, which was what, 2017, 2018?
I feel like
2018,
early
I think.
2018.
Okay, whenever they launched No Man's Sky Next, he said that, he's like, I don't want to go into details, but the numbers of new sales, like the number of new sales that we got with that game is that a AAA title would be very happy with the numbers. And that's just from the launch of Next, that people were like, oh, what's this? Good press about No Man's Sky? I guess it's time to jump in. And so maybe that new wave will buy into No Man's Sky Beyond.
I think people got really caught up in that sort of redemption story for that game of just
Right.
like, hey, here's an example of a live service game that actually lives up, because there's just so many negative connotations for being a live service game. You think of like loot boxes, you think of just like pay to win mechanics, that I think people are really like impressed and want to invest money in that sort of thing, showing that like, oh yeah, this works.
Yeah.
Like, I want more of this, not more of this bullshit over here, the slot machine bullshit. Give me more of what No Man's Sky is doing.
Yeah,
Also,
absolutely.
like, if your friends get into it, then like, oh, well, now it's cheap on Steam and better than what I heard, so I might as well jump in too.
Yeah, now they have real multiplayer. They had that with Next, obviously, but now they've even expanded multiplayer this time around, so it's like 16 to 32 players, depending on the platform. The craziest thing is that there's full VR support, and it's too early. I haven't heard, like, a lot of raw impressions, but I played a demo. It was like 15 minutes back during GDC that was full VR, and it was super impressive. It was like the exact type of game that I want in VR. And so I recently talked to Sean Murray for the website and then also for an upcoming piece in the magazine, and he said that they're able to detect that 1 million owners of No Man's Sky have a VR headset. And so they're like, okay, so everybody, I guess, who owns a VR headset, here's just a free, awesome, huge VR game with No Man's Sky Beyond. Enjoy, which is just absurdly generous. I hope the community latches onto that aspect of it.
Yeah.
They could easily be like selling these expansions. I'm surprised they're not, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
it must make so much money just on new sales that it like they don't have to.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. They are going to have like a retail version in September for the PlayStation 4. So you can buy that like No Man's Sky Beyond and all the updates in that if you just want the pure disc of it and whatnot. But
I imagine it's also a company thing too. Like Hello Games isn't, or what is it? It's Hello Games,
Yep,
right?
yep.
They're not huge,
No.
right? So I imagine like they don't have to have that much overhead
right.
compared to like, another company.
Yeah, and we don't know the numbers, but say they've sold 3 million copies. He said they have 1 million owners that have VR. That's got to be crazy. So at the bare minimum, let's say 3 million copies of that game have been sold. I mean, that's enough to support a team that small for quite a while, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But it was interesting talking to Sean Murray briefly for the magazine and for the website, just because like they still don't want to do video interviews. Like they're open to the press every once in a while. It's like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, right? Where they'll open the gates and be like, all right, we'll talk to press right now, and gates are shut again. Hello Games is back to work. But for a while, they're on board for making it a podcast interview. And it was like, great, Sean Murray on the podcast, this will be so great. It was so much fun. And then it's like, nah, we're not quite feeling comfortable with the video yet, which is just bizarre to me.
I don't think it's that bizarre. Like, if you think about it, like, really just try and put yourself in, like, that position of, I don't want to speak for Sean, but just I can imagine, like, having all of these, sort of meme videos and stuff made about you, like, calling you a liar and stuff, and, like, just, that's got to suck. And I don't know if I'd, like, personally, if I was in his shoes, want to expose myself to that sort of, like, behavior again, because you're always going to court the internet when you're in that position.
Yeah.
And
Like
it
what
doesn't
happened with
matter,
the
like,
Ooblet stabs like 2 weeks ago.
What's that?
Like what happened with the Ooblet stabs like 2 weeks ago. Like you don't want to run afoul of the internet.
Well, yeah, but even what's there to run afoul of? Unless he really sticks his foot in his mouth, right? But he's just, I guess they're just worried about not being as polished as they could be because he still doesn't like doing press.
See, I think your problem there is like you're imagining a world where the internet is reasonable.
Right. That's true.
And people often aren't when it comes to sort of like this stuff.
But they're doing so many interviews, but it's just tougher, I guess, to make YouTube highlight cuts of, oh, here's this written excerpt. It's like, not to draw it into modern politics, but the same thing with the Mueller report, right? Of like, well, let's just have Mueller parrot everything that's in the report because people aren't going to read that. And so it's that same idea of like, if it's in text, it won't pop in a YouTube-driven outrage culture, I guess. Yeah. But it's still confusing. But lovely to talk to them at GDC and then also in the interview as well recently. teased again that Sean Murray is working on the next project as well. Like he's still working on No Man's Sky, and they're going to continue releasing more updates beyond, which is crazy. But then moving into the future, it seems like next gen project, right? Because they know what's going on for next gen. They're saying that they're going to create something else procedurally generated and kind of use the core of No Man's Sky's tech to create something new.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that crazy at all. Like, you think about how certain other games have been running for as long as they have, like Warframe, right? Warframe's still going on and still gets expansion packs, and people, like, there's a crazy big player base for it. I don't know why they'd stop No Man's Sky if people are still buying copies.
And there's still plenty of ideas out there. Like, now, hey, you can milk aliens and farm and weird crap like that. It's great. Yeah, weird deal. Are you guys going to play Beyond, do you think?
Yeah, no. I mean, I definitely, like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to play everything that comes to No Man's Sky just to, like, taste it.
Yeah.
You know, just
taste that juicy milk?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm definitely going to give it a shot. I want to see. I played at the beginning at launch. It was like, okay, I kind of bounced off of it, but so much has been changed at this point. I would just want to see how different it is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now they also have like a social hub, forgot to mention, so like the tower in Destiny is what Murray compared it to, where at any point you can summon this crazy, looks like a Death Star, and like go inside of it, and then other players can be in there no matter where they are in the universe. If they go into that place, you can see them represented there. So it's a fun idea. Let's see, Imran, anything else going on? Anything else you want to say?
THQ Nordic bought up a whole bunch of studios.
They actually bought studios. Who'd they buy?
Yeah. They bought Gunfire Games, I think the most relevant one.
Oh, friend of the show. They were just on not too long ago talking about Darksiders 3.
Yeah, so they're now a THQ Nordic studio, which I assume means they're going to double down on our Darksiders.
Yeah, probably. They see it as a huge brand. Good God, are they pouring money into Destroy All Humans, though? Like, that campaign is killing it.
Do you remember at E3, like the big thing outside of the convention center was just a giant Destroy All Humans statue?
Yeah, it's absurd. Also, they tease that they have somebody that worked originally at Time Splitters back with THQ Nordic to kind of oversee the future of that series.
Yeah, it's the co-creator.
Okay.
Yeah. And he worked on like Max Payne 3 and Grand Theft Auto 5 and a bunch of other stuff too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's exciting. It's like, it's a nice hint that it's the early days of the potential of future Time Splitters, but still, that's enough to get me excited.
Yeah, I think the phrase was helping plot the future of the franchise.
Right.
Was what it said in the report, which that means this game is not in production yet, probably.
No.
But it does mean they're planning to do more than just remasters.
Yeah.
Right, which is why I think when we had Sumo on the podcast, I was like, oh, Sumo is such a great studio to tackle a future Time Splitters game because they also have the art director from the old Time Splitters games working at Sumo, and so I would think they would go there, but at the same time, they also yanked a project from Sumo in the recent reports, which is Dead Island 2.
Huh.
Yes.
So maybe they're not on the best terms with Sumo, and so they wouldn't go to them for Time Splitters with that obvious connection.
That was 2013, right? When they announced that game?
I think it was 2014 or 2015.
It was at a Sony E3 conference, I think. I want to say it was 13 or 14.
I think it's 14, yeah.
I know that Dying Light has kind of eaten some of Dead Island's lunch, but at the same time, I think there is still enough positive brand association for Dead Island. Like, there's a lot of fans. That game sold a surprising amount.
Yeah, which is why they keep reviving it, because like they want that money from like that name cachet.
Yeah. I think even beyond the trailer, I bet there is a majority of that audience never saw that trailer. They just saw, oh, cool zombie melee focus game where I can use and create any weapons possible. Have at it. I think they're satiated by just an easy
but I do
co-op
think
zombie
that
game.
like Techland took that thunder with them with Dying Light.
It could be.
Yeah.
I still think, if it comes out in decent shape, I could see the sales of Dead Island 2 surprising a lot of people.
I don't know, man. It just feels like that name has been like just
trotted out
tarnished.
too much. Yeah, you could be right.
They need a lot of good PR these days. So THQ Nordic is, especially recently, they're hitting up certain fan favorite things, like the Saints Row thing. Like that makes total sense. They'd be working on that. I'm surprised they went ahead and just announced it now.
Right. Did they confirm that it's Volition making a new Saints Row?
Volition.
Yeah.
It's deep.
Which like they're not
in
going to make a
development.
sequel to Agents of Mayhem. Like
Yeah, for sure.
Did not do well.
We were talking about this morning, Imran. Where is THQ getting their money from? How is this happening?
The parent company of THQ Nordic is another company called THQ Nordic, and above that is Koch Media, which is a very big European media conglomerate.
But not related to the Koch brothers.
Not at all.
Okay, it's very confusing. Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so it's just overall giant media company has a fun little gaming outlet here.
Yeah, it's like it's a very small part of their business, honestly, but it's where they get all. Plus, I mean, generally, no one European development is very disparate and very spread out, so it's easy to pick up a lot of small studios and just do whatever.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I want to go back and listen to that Dark Souls 3 interview because I'm pretty sure I talked to Gunfire about the idea of being purchased, specifically by Microsoft or anybody else, right? And so I wonder what kind of shape that studio's in because aren't they developing that Remnant game?
Yep.
So now that is that a THQ
That's
game?
out like next month.
So not a THQ game.
Not
No.
It's Perfect Worlds.
Perfect Worlds.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Game industry. You still like it, Imran?
Yeah, I have issues with THQ Nordic, but otherwise, game
Right.
industry in general, I like.
Because of the 8chan stuff, right?
Yes, it's still a thing they won't talk to me about.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they've blocked my email, which makes other things like getting appointments for stuff difficult.
Right. And, it's one of those things where the more you hear about 8chan, maybe in some current events recently, it's like, oh, that's right. That was that THQ thing. Then
Shout
that was
out
the
to
site.
Mark.
Oh, my God. Well, hey, Imran, you want to clip on out of here, buddy?
Sure.
Bye.
Kyle.
Rad!
Oh, Lord. He's raring to go. All right. Let's talk about it.
I actually, you did catch me like as I'm like on the last level with a really good build.
Oh,
so I
really?
am kind of like amped up and like hopeful to beat the end boss.
Until you just
You definitely have some Super Saiyan energy
Yeah.
going on right next to me.
For sure.
beat your head against this last boss for 3 hours and deflate your enthusiasm.
That's right.
Okay, this is Double Fine's final game published by anybody other than Microsoft.
Well, is Psychonauts published by Microsoft?
Yeah, I think at this
Yeah,
point it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, 'cause
published by Bandai Namco. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is Rad?
Rad is a rogue light, overhead isometric perspective, little twin sticky, but mostly just like melee combat game.
Is that correct, Leo? Judges?
Sure.
Wow, way to go.
Judges,
Well done.
yeah, thank you, judges.
and the art style seems to be the standout thing, the presentation,
Yeah,
right?
it's very neon 80s aesthetic. Like it's like when you think of 80s post-apocalypse, like that's kind of what they're going for. Like
Yeah.
what was the Far Cry 3 spin-off? Blood
Oh,
Dragon.
Blood
It's
Dragon.
very Blood Dragon-y,
okay.
which is cool.
Yeah.
I like the art style.
And it's,
It good?
I like it. There's
good job, JB. You got it.
Oh, yeah, good job. I don't love it. Like there are things that I get frustrated by. The randomization of the levels like leads to like things being arranged not improperly. Like you can always finish the level.
Yeah.
But like there are times when it's just like annoying and doesn't match up or like.
What does that mean? Just like you're repeating the same environments, or what does that mean?
No, it's just like things will be in awkward places often, or like the other thing is like the physics of the objects in the world get in the way unnecessarily sometimes. And I've been running into slowdown. Especially in the later levels when there's like a lot happening on screen, but that could also just be the PC I'm playing on. I don't know if that's like a universal thing. But I mean, the things I like about it, I like the combat. I like what happens is you basically like level up as you beat enemies, and when you level, you get a random mutation, and their mutations are like significant and they're weird. Like some of my favorites are one that like turned my head into like a cobra head, and I could do like cobra strikes.
Oh, that's awesome.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, and there was one that like basically turned me into a centaur. So I was like much faster, and I had this crazy like dash attack.
Does it stack?
Yes, you get 3 mutations, and then as you level up, those mutations get stronger and stronger.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Tactically, the best one I found is that like your head turns into a Ghost Rider head, and you toss the head, and it's a bomb, and then it kind of like grows back.
My grandma went that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I didn't mean to bring up anything.
Well, that sounds
uncomfortable.
fun. That's like a fun twist on this format.
Yeah, and
right?
I've been playing a lot, and I'm still seeing new mutations like regularly. Like there's some that I like, and some that I get. Like there's one that gives you wings to like jump
Red Bull?
higher. Yeah, the Red Bull mutation, but like it's like an isometric action game, so like jumping isn't that useful. So like whenever I get that, I'm like, well, this run's busted. You know what I mean? Which is pretty common for that genre. You know what I mean? You're gonna have stuff that you don't like, but it's exciting when you get something new because it changes the look of your character and the animation often, and like how you approach play and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
We
And they can
had-
combine in weird ways too, which is cool.
Oh, it's fun. I think the first day you were playing in the office, people were gathered around checking out, like, what is this? Oh, it's a Double Fine Rad game.
Yeah.
And then people were making the standard jokes of like, oh, is it going to get the Double Fine 775? And I don't think you have the score locked down yet
No,
or
I
anything.
don't. No.
But it's like, there was that standard of like, oh, Double Fine. It's charming, the art's great, and the writing's great, and the gameplay is serviceable to
Funny,
to fine.
interesting world, cool art style, gameplay's okay. You know,
Right.
So it's kind of in that Double Fine.
But it was nice to have that epiphany wash to the office of like, oh, we don't need to feel bad about these jokes anymore because they are set up over at Microsoft. They're
got
rolling in the
money.
cash, baby.
Yeah.
But on the higher end of Double Fine games recently, would you say?
Let me see. Well, what are some like recent ones to kind of like remind
What about
you
like
to think-
Headlander, which is Lee Petty, the director's last
I didn't
game?
play a ton of Headlander, which is
Okay.
funny because they kind of like have a similar neon bright art style. Like
Right.
you could almost imagine the events of Headlander happening over
Sure.
that Earth,
Okay, Rhombus of Ruin.
which I played actually.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know.
It's
Not
a tough
not.
comparison.
Yeah, it is because they're usually so different.
Hack and slash.
I didn't play Hack and Slash.
Drop chord.
Wait, is that the rhythm game with the?
Yeah.
I did play that one. A little
On the
bit.
leap, yeah.
Yeah, I did play that one a
Okay.
little bit. A little bit above those, I would say. Headlander is the one that I'm not sure because I haven't played a lot, and I think I would like Headlander. It's just
Yeah.
like one of those ones I never got around
Oh,
to.
that's strange. You never played that.
Yeah, because they're in Metroidy, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Cool. So rad.
Yeah, I think if you enjoy roguelikes and roguelites, it's something to check out. I think it's unique and like art style and it's cool, but
Yeah.
like it's not going to convince you to suddenly become a huge fan of that genre.
Right. Hey, let's stay in the past, baby, because we got Ion Fury here, going from
Yeah.
what 80s aesthetic to 90s. Is that
80s,
what's going
late
on
80s,
here?
Jumping forward a couple of years.
Okay. It turns out we talked about this game last year when it was called Ion Maiden, and you were pretty hot on it then. It's now out of early access.
Yeah, it's full release now.
Okay.
Today on PC, and then later this year it's coming to everything else, including Switch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, but later this year.
Yeah, later this year sometime, unspecified.
I'm going to step in here, Hanson.
Please.
It good?
It good.
Okay.
It real good. I liked it a lot.
Okay. You
get
I
a
loved
score?
it even.
Oh,
a
you got a
9.
score.
9 out
Wow.
of 10.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Is this a JV 9 or a real 9?
No, what's that mean? No,
Yeah.
like I mean, other outlets have liked it a lot too.
Okay,
so it's
good.
like in the 9, 8s
Wow.
sort of place.
And it's who's publishing this thing?
It's 3D Realms who
so
published Duke Nukem 3D, Shadow Warrior, and Max Payne, the original one, way back in the day.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, before Rockstar got a hold of it.
Okay.
But it's a developer called Void Point. I think they're Danish. I might be wrong, but it's an indie company, and 3D Realms is publishing.
Okay.
And basically, the whole hook of it is because they came last year to show us an early version of the game before it even went to early access, and their whole thing is like, okay, imagine games like Quake and Half-Life didn't happen for first-person shooters, and the '90s shooter just kept on going. So you got more games like Shadow Warrior, like Duke Nukem, like Doom. This is that. Was their whole pitch, and when they showed it, it looked cool. It was like a cool sort of like relic. I don't want to call it a relic, but more like a fascinating project than necessarily something like, oh man, this is amazing.
Right.
But since then, they've apparently just done a lot of updates to like the gameplay and the level design, so that it's timeless fun. I'd argue, like it's just so much fun to play outside of the nostalgia of like, oh, here's a continuation of this thing. To me, it's like sort of like the shooter equivalent of like Shovel Knight or Pillars of Eternity.
And is it like a campaign?
Yeah, it's a campaign. It's a 10-hour campaign.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's great
the
to hear that
crib's
it's not-
hard from like RoboCop, where you just
Really?
play like a bomb disposal expert called Shelley, Bombshell. It's set in the future Washington D.C., but basically an evil scientist has taken over the city and converted a bunch of the population into like weirdo cyborg transhumanist cult monsters.
Cool.
And so you take them on with like bowling ball bombs that like hone in on enemies, and then your starter pistol is even cool because it's got like 18 rounds, and they straight up just steal the McCree ultimate, so you can tag enemies. That it makes like killing enemies, like tiny enemies in the sky, super useful.
Okay.
And then what else is there? There's your sort of standard like shotgun with a grenade modification. There's a crossbow bolt that shoots electric bolts that kill multiple enemies. They fly through multiple enemies and stuff. It's like really fun, creative weaponry, great boss fights.
Yeah.
And the level design, like the levels are huge and they're just filled with secrets. Like we're talking like 20 to 50 secrets to find per level.
Per level?
Yeah, it's insane.
Kyle, you must have the same reaction. Just hearing that it's not a roguelite, it's like, oh, thank God.
Honestly, yeah.
Also because I think of like Strafe, which was kind of going for a similar aesthetic.
Yeah,
and then
this
that one
is
didn't end up as well.
Yeah, this is much better than Strafe.
Oh,
And
yes.
Dusk, that I'd argue. Like,
Oh,
I like
yeah.
Dusk. I like Dusk. That's not to like shit on Dusk, but it feels like Dusk is very much rooted in like you had to grow up with this or
Right.
like play this when you were younger, but like I think Ion Maiden or Ion Fury, we're going to do that a lot.
Do you want Iron Maiden to kick down this door and kick our ass? Come on, man.
Is fantastic because I think what makes a really good first-person shooter sort of like when you think of like arsenals as like, or like even like gameplay features as storytelling devices, vocabulary, like when you talk about like Titanfall 2, like a common story that you can have in Titanfall 2 is like, I ran along a wall shooting like tons of enemies that were below me, killing them. And then I jumped on a giant robot, threw a grenade in that robot and blew it to pieces. That kind of storytelling that isn't manufactured. It's just stuff that you give the player and that they can build together. And I think Ion Fury has sort of the same thing of like all of this crazy weaponry. You get into this like super hardcore fight with tons of enemies. We're talking like 30 to 40 on screen. And you can duck, let's say, you're getting your ass kicked. You can like head back into the hallway, duck into a room, start messing with like light switches and stuff. And occasionally like you'll hit a light switch and it'll open up this panel on the wall that just has like a grenade launcher and just ridiculous weaponry that you can grab. Yeah, it's super fun. I like it a lot.
Your reviews on the site.
Reviews on the site.
Ion Fury, PC exclusive.
Not Ion Maiden.
Not Ion Maiden, no matter what. That was weird because that news story came out and I was like, who's focusing on this game that came out like early last year? Then it's like, oh, that's right. I didn't realize it was an early access. Yeah. It was still. And also a lot of the comments are right where it's like, well, it's a torture device. Like clearly they're going for the banned like play on words, but can you do that?
Yeah, I think the reason they finally changed that was that they did technically steal like maybe the font for Iron Maiden.
How do we know the torture device didn't have a font? Come on, could go farther back. Yeah. That's great. Kyle, are you looking forward to that game club coming up?
Yes.
Are you looking forward to the emails coming up?
Yes.
Then here we go. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. Kyle, you stuck around. We're going to make it worth your while.
I'm going to stick around even longer.
Ben Reeves here.
Hey.
And we have Cyril Vasquez.
Freshly stuck.
And what's this? A Leo Vader in the booth.
Hey, guys.
Hi. Turn your camera on.
Okay.
Why are you ashamed of the way you look?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Come on, man. Be cool.
Is it? He looks handsome to me.
Yeah, there it is. We got it.
Oh, Leo. You
Look,
look.
it's him. It's Leo.
First email. We got so much feedback this time around. Because you know how this works, the section of the podcast?
They send it to feedback.
Please remind us.
No, that's for the magazine. But if you want to be in the magazine, it's feedback@GameInformer.com. But if you want to be on this podcast, it's podcast@GameInformer.com. People send in feedback, words of wisdom, thoughts, things they learned about games or the game industry, questions, trivia, dreams, dares, anything that makes the show better. Send it into podcast@GameInformer.com. We read off some of our favorites, choose our absolute number one favorite, and then honor where that person's from by putting a big pin in the board. Right? Sorry, Vasquez?
Yes.
And that place. Yeah.
East Coast is really representing.
Yeah, you're right. Well, the West Coast is doing great too because Seattle
Mostly
and also British Columbia there, they're doubling up.
Right.
They're really killing it. Houston also, doubling
Come on,
up.
Dakotas.
Yeah.
Let's go, Dakota.
Where you at, Dakota?
Where you at, Dakota?
Show up.
North, South, and Fanning.
Take a big bite out of that big board.
We got South Dog and North Dog here.
What's happening right now?
Welcome to the Game Informer Show.
First emails, Huckleberry in Texas. That's not Dakota.
Come on, man.
Come
Too
on.
far south.
Oh, he says, hey, speaking of dogs, last week on the podcast, you guys talked about the Roadrunner / Coyote dynamic and how it blurs the line between traditional hero-villain relationships and protagonist and
That
antagonist.
famously gray area relationship.
However,
Were
maybe
you guys talking about being confused on who was the hero in that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
Yes. You remember that like it was last week.
By you guys, you mean us.
Hey, that's good content.
However, maybe the most subversive of the Looney Tunes characters was, of course, Pepe Le Pew. Has not aged well, but
Nope.
He said this character, completely disillusioned, he's the villain who thinks he's the hero, which is an interesting
Okay.
take. That's
Yeah.
true,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Moving on. Rush from San Francisco says, hello, Ben, Suriel, Kyle, Dan, and Leo. Whatever, close. This question is for Suriel, but everyone can answer.
Does he start with "I'm a video game"?
Yeah, isn't that weird? He says, I absolutely love fighting game stories almost as much as single-player stories. I know that they don't get as much love as other story-based games, but I'm curious to know, what is your favorite story from a fighting game? Personally, I love the Tekken storyline, with Tekken 7 being the best. Being that invested in the game since it was made and seeing the big epic fight at the end gave me goosebumps. What do you think, Suriel? Best fighting game story of all time?
I think I mean, it's an easy answer, but Mortal Kombat, I think, is.
I know, but that's too general. Which one
Yeah.
specifically?
Probably either 9 or 11. I think.
But if you had to choose, though, come on.
Whoa,
no one wants this
interesting.
wishy-washy.
You don't like 10? Because that's the one I would have picked.
Oh,
I
really?
think it's. I don't know. I really like it a lot, but I think 9. If you were to show someone like, hey, here's a really good one, I think maybe 9's just because of. I like the way it interplays with the idea of, hey, we're gonna retell this story, but we're also gonna throw a bunch of twists into it.
And trying to start with
yeah.
11, it's like, what is happening at every front?
11. I think 11 and 10 are good, but they're hard to parse if you haven't
Yeah.
played the stuff before it. But
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of like the actual story mode, I actually really like Brawls, Super Smash Brothers Brawls.
I was about to say we're not just going to skip over the game that inspired you to write fan fiction, right?
It wasn't Brawl. It was Melee.
Oh,
Are you
excuse
talking
me.
about
I'm
the
sorry.
Three-day
Space
story.
Emissary?
God, yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, the story is fun to look
Right,
at,
the
but a
story
lot of
mode.
those gameplay sections.
That's why I said story mode.
Okay, but I'm saying the gameplay in Subspace Emissary is fine at best, right?
But even
okay.
the story is not good.
Hey,
There's a lot of.
step off, dude. There's the darkness or whatever taking over. The evil guys are all around
We
you.
all
It's the same
remember
thing
it.
as Destiny, basically.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Does
everybody
Street
loves that.
Fighter the movie the game count? Was that?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
That's probably it, right?
You know what I've been playing a lot this summer?
What have you been
Marvel vs. Capcom 1.
Really?
I'm having a great time with it. And I've indoctrinated like all nephews and stuff they think that it's just like the greatest game ever made. Just because
Oh,
like,
yeah.
the art's great and they recognize Spider-Man, done deal. I think they love the Mega Man art, but they don't know who Mega Man is. It's very fun to see them play that game. And
Why
it's
the
like,
first one? What? drew you
I
to
don't have
that?
the other ones.
Oh.
All
Are you
right.
playing it like through the Marvel vs. Capcom Origins thing, or is it
No.
just like a
Jacob
Okay.
from Fairfax, Virginia writes in and says, "Hey, GI crew, I've recently been watching a playthrough of everyone's favorite 6.5 out of 10, Murdered Soul Suspect.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And now I can't seem to stop thinking about it. On paper, I love it. A noir ghost detective solving his own murder case is a concept that just sounds so incredibly fun. Unfortunately, as we all know, the game did not fully live up to the cool concept that was presented on paper. I was wondering, what games for you fall into that same category? A game where the concept on paper for you was interesting, but the execution did not live up to the idea.
I mean, No Man's Sky seems like a recent thing. I don't know if they've turned that around, right?
It feels like
Yeah,
they have.
Reeves,
like
they
they
turned it
have.
around. Where have you
Seems
been
like
the
they've
last
turned
3
it-
years?
I was going to get to that, Hanson. In the last 3 years, they've really turned it around. So I wouldn't say that.
Reeves, what's the most frustrated you think you've ever been with me?
With you?
Yeah.
Like 10 seconds ago. I don't know. I can't think of anything offhand.
Okay.
There was one time where we went over to a party and I was like meeting one of your friends. And you're like, "Dude, take my breath away," and you like put our hands together. Try to. That's how you matchmake people.
I was back and you're single, and it was my friend. I'm like, I could hook these two up. This would be great. And I just went as heavy into it as possible and forced them to shake hands for like 48 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never
was
saw
out
her
of control,
again.
yeah.
Or you again. That really was the opposite of the intended effect. That was a nightmare. Was that a nightmare for you?
It was very uncomfortable. If you were curious.
Boy, I thought that was fun. That was not a good idea. Did I really sing Take My Breath Away?
Something like that. I'm pretty sure it was a song of that caliber. And then the stars in my eyes.
Yep, and that's how you met your wife.
That's right. The next day.
Gravity Rush is kind of a series.
Oh, way to bring it back. Gravity Rush.
The first Gravity Rush, and I think the second one to a lesser extent, they have a really cool concept of letting you just basically fly wherever by basically falling in any direction. But the games that they build around that concept are like not good.
Right.
So usually, like I gave Gravity Rush 2, I think a 7.5, mostly because I really liked that core mechanic and just exploring the city was really good. But when you're in the single player or like trying to actually progress the game story, I don't think it's a good game.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
And there's another game like I was looking forward to, Hardcore Spore. Like that game sounded like the coolest game in the world.
Yeah.
You're just gonna like start as an amoeba and then like grow into a civilization.
Yep.
And like every section of that game fails to live up to what you want it to be.
Unless you play it years after it was released for the first time and realize like it's still kind of fun. Like separate from that hype.
That's what I was gonna say if you gave me a chance. I was like, years later, if you go back to it, it's actually all right.
I remember like my first job in video production in the cities when I was in college. I remember there was like this old timer there, and somehow we started talking about video games, and he's like, Spore's gonna be the next big thing. And we're trying to explain it to another coworker, and he's like, remember how The Sims blew up? this is going to be the next Sims, guaranteed. It's going to be Spore. And I was like, not so much. But then lo and behold, Dark Spore became the next Sims.
I remember getting a preview from that early on in my career here at Game Informer and being like, actually, this is kind of cool. I think this could be good.
Spore Diablo?
Yeah.
And now I think they've killed it. Like it's
did they?
unplayable.
They said it was too popular.
Right, exactly.
Was that just PC? I thought that was like a console, like a
I think
Wii
it
or
was
something.
just PC. They had like Spore Hero or something on Wii. They
Yeah,
had
there's a DS game,
Spore
too.
offshoot. What was that called? Leo in the booth. Can you check and see what that Spore offshoot was called? For me, Valiant Hearts I think is up there for me in this category where I love the premise. That was the World War I Ubisoft game where the art was just incredible. I thought the storytelling I think was really interesting, and then every chunk of gameplay you had to do. Basically, anytime you played the game, miserable. Yeah.
Not good.
Not good.
That one, like, I went and played it, and like, there's a scene where you're hopping in the taxis to drive to the battle zone. Apparently, it's based on some real thing. Where,
Really?
like, a bunch of people hopped in like taxis and drove to a battle zone, or like medics, I think.
Oh, okay.
But they take this like, oh, this is an interesting topic, and then it just seems like Looney Tunes. Like they're in taxis driving, and bombs are dropping everywhere, and they're trying to dodge
There's
them.
a
Like,
skunk trying to make love to them.
yeah, the tone of this game is way off.
Did not age well. World War One didn't age well.
No, it did not.
Who was the antagonist again? Anyways, Leo, did you find out what that is?
It's called Spore Creatures. Of course,
Creatures.
Spore was not about creatures, so that's the.
That's the novelty.
It was just like the building aspect of it.
Oh, okay.
You think Minecraft is basically what people wanted from Spore?
No,
No.
no.
I think it's what
moving on.
people liked about Spore the most was like the building stuff.
Yeah. Well, I remember the pitch for Spore from Will Wright, which we talked about in the interview, I think, was how he wanted to gamify a religious epiphany. That was the goal of Spore. It's like, that's so effing cool.
Maybe Ancestors will be what we
Maybe.
always wanted Spore to be.
Let's see.
He's looking at it right now.
Josh from Lancaster, Pennsylvania says, oh, yes. Oh, yes, he does say this. I'm sorry,
Great,
I thought I
next
was off.
question.
He
Okay.
says, I was browsing the game section at a local retail store recently and came across the most vile of sites, the WWE 2K19 cover art. Does somebody want to look this up? I haven't looked this up. I'm sure a lot of work and resources went into designing the cover art for all to see, but looking at this one just made me cringe. I can't even fully explain why. Perhaps it's the wannabe Power Rangers Zord pose? So my question is, what cover art makes you shake your head in complete disapproval? The worst cover art for games.
I mean, cover art I feel like is just generally like underwhelming or bad. Like it's always just like the protagonist character like framed from the waist up. And it's like it can be for games that have amazing art, and they just always, I guess they find that sells well,
Right.
Which is always such a bummer.
I remember BioShock Infinite, they had the cover with just Booker standing
Yeah.
there. And it was
Yeah.
like, that's kind of generic, boring. But then they had, on the flip side, it was like this really cool art.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, that's so much cooler.
Well, they focus tested it. Like, I would love to be in those meetings to figure out everybody looking at the cool reversible cover art and be like, not for me. I think the Resistance 3... No, Resistance 3 had good art, because that was like the
Yeah.
yellow, or like the
Ollie
Ollie
Moss
Moss,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
orange skull thing.
Yeah,
that
but-
looked like it should have been a reversible cover, except that was the actual cover.
But I
That
think
was
2,
badass.
it's just like Nathan Hale just with a gun in his hand
Right,
or something.
right.
Just a lot of like this. You're looking at this guy from the back, and he's like holding a gun.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Do you guys ever go back and just look at those old Atari 2600 cover arts, though, and just be like, that was the era for
Yeah.
the best cover art?
That's
For
all they
borderline
had.
misleading.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it totally. And they was like, because they're not going to show the game on the cover.
No.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but like, and so they drew these awesome images. Like, I like that cover art, honestly.
Yeah. I'm with you. Let's see. Tim from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Wait, I just want to
Yep,
give
yep.
a quick shout out
Please.
to Arkham City's terrible box art where they had like the game. I think it was like the Game of the Year version where
Oh.
it was nothing but just like quotes for like.
All the numbers. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was so bad. I forgot about that trash. Yeah. That's fun. Tim from Bethlehem. Oh, did you look up that cover art, by the way?
It was 2015?
2019.
Oh, 19.
Yeah.
Because I was like, 2015 is not good, but
It's
just
some
a
sort of wrestler on the cover.
guy dunking a basketball. This one?
Wait, WWE.
Reeves.
Oh, it's not NBA?
This is the
I
most
like how you
frustrated
did
I've
the
ever
thing
been
that
with
you
you.
were joking about earlier.
You got the year wrong and the franchise.
That's not the Reeves I know. Here we go. Oh, okay. Looks
I
like
mean,
some angry man.
Roman
Yeah,
Reigns.
this looks like every cover they do every year.
from the
Yeah.
waist up.
If
Yeah,
you're
it's
listening
bad.
just to the audio version, you can't see it in the video version either, so don't worry.
Great.
Tim from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
So don't give us a YouTube view and try to look it up on the video version.
The resident says, hey, please allow me to flex my geography nerd muscle to make a couple of corrections.
Uh-oh.
You cannot straddle the line between Trinidad and Tobago because they're two separate islands. All right,
if you're big
buddy.
enough, if you were probably thousands of stories tall, you could probably do it.
That's true. And they
Right
say
in if you're 1,000 stories tall.
they also say the funniest country name is Lesotho in Africa.
Okay.
Very
Is that
good.
funny?
It's pretty good.
It's a good
Were you guys
name.
discussing funny country
The
names?
funniest country name, yeah. Oh boy, do people have thoughts
USA.
on this? If you think about it, man.
Snap, snap.
Let's see. Mike from Maine says, my old coworker was from Curaçao, a Dutch Caribbean island formerly part of the Netherlands. I found myself repeating the name because it was fun to say.
That is funny.
Curaçao. Let's see. The funniest country name is clearly, and everybody wrote in about this, like, you idiots, it's Djibouti. Of course it's
Yeah.
Djibouti.
Yep.
Jacob Shoemaker says, of course it's Djibouti.
Good.
Let's see. Jeff seems to be an expert here, saying, of course, the funniest country name is Djibouti. Fun fact about Djibouti, it's one of several countries in Eastern Africa affected by shifting tectonic plates, and it's slowly being pulled apart with the continent. So millions of years from now, there will now be two separate African landmasses. But for now, the only visible evidence of this are cracks in countries like Ethiopia and Kenya. There are even cracks in Djibouti.
All right. That's cool.
It's his joke.
Yeah, Leo will add a laugh track.
Okay, Mahmoud from
I
Jeddah,
get it.
Saudi Arabia says, regarding funny country names, I must go with Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso.
Because Faso means they released a silent fart in Arabic.
Oh, really?
Yes, there is a specific noun for silent farts as opposed to an audible fart in Arabic.
All right.
Way to go, Arabic.
We should.
This is
distinguish.
happening enough that we have to put this contingency in place. We have to make a new word.
Oh, this is crazy. I am a diplomat who used to work at the UN in New York, and every time Burkina Faso takes the floor in a meeting to speak, you can see all the Arab diplomats look around and giggle like school kids.
That's funny.
Oh, be damned.
Grow up.
You know what? Everyone's having fun. Turns out the UN's a fun thing. Zeth, sorry, from Portland, Oregon, he says, "Sup? You guys have any weird hobbies that you can't talk to anybody about? Stuff you're super smart about, but nobody else will give a damn, like model trains or something?"
Model trains or something.
I mean, comic books, but that's cool.
Yeah, you're.
Everybody loves that.
What's the deal with this new X-Men series? Reiner seems to be screaming from the office about how it's the second coming of Christ or something.
Yeah, it's like Powers of X, House of X. It's like Jonathan Hickman is a well-known comic author.
Yeah.
And he's coming back to Marvel for first time in a long time, and he's doing X-Men. And like X-Men is relevant again for the first time in a long time.
Oh,
Is
and they're
it like-
good.
And they are good. Yeah, I've read only the first two, but I've liked it so far. It's very like heady and like kind of out there.
Is it related to House of
Wild.
M?
They do actually. He does tie it in the last issue. He
Okay.
ties it in.
So is it like
Anyway.
changing the canon of X-Men a lot? Is that why it's
Yeah, kind
interesting?
of. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a big kind of change.
Is there buzz because people think that if Marvel incorporates X-Men, when they incorporate X-Men into the MCU, that they'll take this version of the X-Men? Is that why there's a special?
I mean, that was Reiner's theory. I haven't
Okay.
heard that from anybody else.
Sure.
And what they did say that they're going to do it in a way that they've never done it before,
Right.
in the
Yeah.
way you've never seen X-Men before.
Is it just like a twist on the characters? Is that the exciting thing?
I don't know how they're going to do it.
Okay, but in the comics, like there's a radical shift here that's kind of like a spoiler.
It's almost so hard to describe like why it's so different and wild. But yeah, it is. They did change a couple of the like one character in particular. They made a big change.
Can you say who the character is without?
Moira McTaggart.
Okay.
They're all puppies now, like everybody's.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was
Moira.
trying to talk around it.
Jacob from Effingham, Illinois.
Ooh.
Jacob says, "Hey crew, I haven't read the latest issue of Game Informer yet. I'm sorry. So sorry if I missed this, but
You're not allowed to listen to this podcast.
yeah,
though.
that's true. Gears 5. Yeah, you have the ticket, right?
Yeah.
The ticket to listen to this podcast because you read the
Put
magazine.
one ticket into your phone.
right now. Sorry if I missed the preview, but Gears 5 is less than a month away, but it certainly doesn't feel like it. I haven't seen any marketing for the game besides at GameStop and on Xbox itself. No YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch ads. On top of that, I still have no idea what the campaign is about other than you play as Kate. What is happening?
I think they mentioned that they were going to dole out their marketing campaign as like a 1 beat per month of, hey, here's our like our new mode, whatever it's called, the Rush or Expand or whatever, the new one. Then we're going to do multiplayer, and then we're going to do single player. But I guess when they mentioned that, I didn't think that that's going to be the only marketing we did, because it feels like that game could come out and I might miss it at some point.
Somebody got the date wrong. They were thinking 2020.
Oh, I see. But they said they're going to save the campaign for right before it releases, so maybe that will get some more eyeballs on it.
Yeah,
I mean, it does feel subdued though. It doesn't feel like there's any enthusiasm for this one.
Well,
maybe they only had the budget for one beta a month.
I don't know if that's it, right? Microsoft's got a budget.
Yeah, I would admit that's a joke, but like, it is weird
is that
how hard.
funny?
Yeah,
That was a joke.
is this going well?
I don't know.
I mean, maybe I'm kind of into it. Like, I like not knowing much about the story or campaign, and maybe what they want. Who knows if this will happen? But they want it to come out and just be word of mouth. Like, that's a game that could potentially do that. Be like, have you heard of Gears 5? Like, they really came back.
Yes, you already own it on Game Pass.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right?
yeah, that's.
Do you think there's like a big twist in the campaign that they're trying to like hide?
But yeah, even if there was, there wouldn't be a big twist in like multiplayer or whatever other modes they have.
Well, the rumor is open world, right? Open world Gears 5?
Yeah, that was a rumor.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which would be that would be crazy if a few 2 weeks before the game comes out, that gets confirmed and we get a look at it.
Yeah,
What
that
if,
would be
what
really
if your
interesting.
objective is like 100 meters away and you have to roadie run all the way over?
And the number just gets smaller and smaller. I
Yeah.
feel like that's a lot of what I do in video games now is just walk in a direction and watch numbers get smaller.
You think
Do
that?
you guys feel that way?
But yeah,
Yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah.
they get bigger.
David
And you turn
Blessman.
left and they're bigger.
David Blessman from Oklahoma City says, "Hey, did you guys hear about this? Activision and Blizzard are basically pulling the plug on the StarCraft IP. Did you see this? Like in the earnings call, they're like, we're hell bent on investing in our significant IP in the future, and they listed all this IP, but not StarCraft. And apparently, the last couple of years they haven't listed it, but it's especially notable now, especially with that Kotaku story about how the StarCraft first-person game was canceled and stuff. So people are declaring this the end of StarCraft.
Well, yeah, pulling the plug on it feels like a bit of a stretch. I mean,
Yeah.
they're definitely not focusing on it, and it seems like they don't care about it right now.
Oh, they released StarCraft cartoon, like that reskin of the remaster, just a month or so ago.
Was
like,
that an official thing?
it was an official thing. Yeah, it was $10.
That was cool. Like, I was thinking about going back and playing that. 'cause
Yeah.
It looks rad. I want them to do more stuff like that.
Better yet, everyone should go back and play StarCraft 2 because the multiplayer is free and it's still one of the best games
And
of all
it's still
time.
a great game.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
We
I
gave
heard
it a
there
10 back in the day and it's just better now.
I heard they weren't doing any sequels or anything. So why would I
Oh,
even
yeah,
bother?
you're right. That's very smart.
They almost put out all those StarCraft games and then they didn't, so nobody bought them. So the interest just isn't there.
Yeah.
How much do you want Blizzard to just bundle up everything that they have never published and just put it out as one package? Like, here's
Yeah.
all their experiments.
Right, the Game Jam games.
People would totally buy that.
Of course, yeah.
It'd be amazing.
David
PKG
Blessman
file.
also says, could you guys do an ode to StarCraft or something? Or a StarCraft YouTube special? That'd be very fun. I've been playing so much StarCraft
Like a
this year. I'd love
StarCraft
to.
Wii eulogy or something.
Right. Says,
Can we call it that?
P.S. Maybe some esports action for Extra Life by having Tak finally whoop Hansen's booty in StarCraft 2. I would crush Tak. I would absolutely crush Tak in StarCraft 2.
To the point where he's not going to want to compete.
You hear me, Tak? You hear me upstairs? Come down, you coward!
Is he here
He's
today?
playing.
I don't think he's here. He's playing Final Fantasy 14. Hey,
Just
look.
he perked up at home though. He's like, huh?
Wait a second.
No.
No. Comes down here and kicks your ass. Like, not even StarCraft. Just like beats you up.
Comes in and drop kicks you out from across the
Show you a void. Let's see. Lance from Fairhope, Alabama says, hello, crew. Number one, the 3 overworlds in Final Fantasy III are as such. The first realm, you start on a floating continent that you eventually leave. Partway through, you go beneath the clouds to the surface world, and at the end of the game, you go to the world of darkness. That's why there's 3 world maps in Final Fantasy III. Isn't that crazy?
Huh.
There's no way to confirm that. I'm sorry.
Number 2, on the original release of Final Fantasy III on the NES, the job system, if I recall, required you to spend some crystals to change your jobs, and it was switched for the remake on the DS. Number 3, the Crystal Tower and Cloud of Darkness boss 24-man raid from Final Fantasy XIV's base game are from Final Fantasy III.
Okay.
Number 4, the original Final Fantasy III started with all 4 party members exploring and falling into a hole where they have a talk with a crystal. In the remake, you only start with 1, maybe 2 party members when you talk to the crystal. Number 5, the remake had a small part where you would cast Mini on your party to explore some areas. Small people, big world. And that was new to the remake. That sounds very fun for Final Fantasy, doesn't it? That's a fun idea. Steven Kreschalek says, hey there, Game Informer crew. Some setting the table here. I'm a web developer by trade, and I'm curious. Now that you guys have had more time with your new website, what has your experience been with it? I've been working on building numerous Drupal 7 to 8 sites, and they can often come with their challenges. And I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on our new site built around Drupal.
So this
Did
guy,
he work on ours?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I
But he
believe
works on the tech, so he just wants to know.
He wants to know.
I don't. I mean, we'd love it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's our old site was bad.
It was very bad. And it's so dumb. We talked about it on the podcast a little bit, but like, the back end for that old site was a rough go. And this time around, it's just a couple of geniuses here within the office. Well, I guess like Curtis, Kristen, and Margaret really built out this new site single-handedly. And it's insane.
I mean,
works.
Maybe there are things that we could complain about, but it's like it's such an improvement over what we had that we are just constantly amazed by it and like happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
the front end of the old site also not too good.
the side ends, the love handles on the old side. If you have complaints about our current website, podcastgameformer.com, I would love to know just what user
Yeah.
experience is like for you. And if
Yeah,
you
I'd
do
love
have
to
any
know
complaints.
what people want to see too
Yeah.
from it. I'm sure Andy would appreciate that.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
have to sign in often.
Yeah.
Once a
that
week
is very
for me, yeah.
annoying.
I think that's a security thing.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
seeing as many 610s and 200s and 300s as I would like.
Old
I
references.
want to crop those individually.
Former interns will
Yeah.
understand.
I thought you were talking about reviews. I'm not seeing as many 6 and 10s as.
Yeah, 610s is what I. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Dustin from Maine says, I double dog dare you, Ben Hansen, to play Hunt Showdown with a buddy and talk about it on the podcast. It's releasing in late August, and I think it's game of the year that no one is talking about. Yeah, that's been in early access for a while. Leo, did you play it when it first came out in early access?
No, we did a new gameplay today with it, though. It did look
Oh.
really interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of off some radars, but that could sneak in and surprise us.
I think Bert's is really into it.
Really? That's
Who's
right, he
making
was. It used to be connected to Gunfire Games. Well, like David Adams there and a lot of that team worked on the original version of it when it was like
Okay.
the Hunt. But now
And it was
I
like
forget.
that's with Crytek. Wasn't they had their fingers in that
Yes.
pie? Okay.
Yeah. So it's an odd one.
That
So-
game does something that like DayZ used to do, where it's, or I guess still does if people still play that, but like a reason not to kill everybody you meet. You know, there's
How
just
so?
a tentative piece until later on in the match.
Oh.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I feel like with the rise of Battle Royale, none of them have really done that. At this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, that's fun. Let's see. Tom from Redmond says, "Hello, Serial, host of this podcast." All right, you want to
just
read that one, Serial?
Assumes you're out of town this week, I
Yeah.
guess.
With many games opting to go open world, what games do you think would be made better by going linear instead? My choice would be Assassin's Creed 3. Thanks, Tom from
Ooh,
Redmond.
that's a good choice.
It's not fully open world, but the Uncharted, not 4, but the one after. What was that one?
Oh,
called?
Lost Legacy.
Lost Legacy, I think would have benefited from being just more straight. I don't think there was.
That's interesting because people cite that like open stuff as like their favorite part of that game.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like actively hate it. It wasn't like, oh god, I'm more open world. I was just like, I don't think it added
Yeah.
anything. You know.
That's fair. I think Watch Dogs. I recently went back and played Watch Dogs 2, and like I don't know, the open world's not that interesting in that game, but I do like the sneaking around using your gadgets to like.
So you want to like
F with
Splinter Cell
people.
type thing?
Yeah, honestly,
Oh, that'd be
that's probably
interesting.
just what I want.
So
also,
why isn't this Splinter Cell?
also basically any racing game.
Oh yeah, that's a great choice.
man.
Absolutely. Hey, Need for Speed Heat. Did you guys
Yeah.
watch that trailer? New Need for Speed?
I haven't watched it. No.
It's nice that it has a take. It's going for like kind of like a fast, too furious kind of vibe, right? Where it's like street
the best
racing.
one, right?
Yes,
Glad they
exactly.
acknowledged.
But yeah, it's like this hard talking Latina lady walking you through the trailer and stuff. It's like, okay, I like that they're going for a very specific vibe instead of just generic Need for Speed.
Did anyone play the last one other than Kato?
No,
Like in the
not
the
a
world?
single human being.
Nobody.
No.
Yeah, I think that was.
Oh, it
Miller.
actually was Miller.
Yeah, Miller that
Yes,
reviewed that one. Yeah, yeah.
didn't play it.
Hey, speaking of Miller, I think he snuck in here as Cody from Kingston. He says, "Hello. Do you think the Transformers would be as popular if instead of cars they transformed into exercise equipment?"
What a
No.
weird question.
Yeah, that is a Miller
No.
question.
And the answer is
100%.
yeah. Let's see. Hi, Tyler from Virginia here. What's the biggest scam you've ever encountered in any video game? Mobile games don't count. Biggest scam.
Biggest scam.
I immediately thought of Ken Levine getting up there talking about BioShock on the Vita.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
still,
Scam though? I thought he was talking about like in-game things.
I think he is, but I just think of just BS that I would consider a scam.
Oblivion
Hey,
was-
everybody, buy a PS Vita because there's going to be an
Yeah.
exclusive BioShock. Never mind.
There was
That's
Oblivion
bullshit.
for PSP at one point.
Really?
With screenshots, even, I think.
PSP?
PSP, yeah.
Oh my god.
So maybe the PSP is just the biggest scam?
Any portable PlayStation system?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall could be. All right, that's my thought. Piet from Rotterdam, the Netherlands says, Hey, everybody. About the new sports you guys were talking about. Mm-hmm. It's the first Olympics this year with bouldering. So I guess bouldering is pretty new.
What's that?
That's like climbing without a rope.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But just like,
Just with your hands.
it's not new. We've been doing that since we were cavemen. I don't think that really counts. But the Olympics
That is
New
a
to the
sport.
Olympics.
Is it a
Yeah.
race or a scored event?
It's just if you can get to the top of the boat. I don't know how it works in the Olympics.
Because I like the
actually.
idea of like just a boulder and just 3 people got to race to the top, and whoever wins it gets gold.
Yeah, that's what it is. Then check out the Olympics. You'll
King of
love
the
it.
Hill, basically, is what they're calling it.
Oh yeah,
Is Tim Turry competing?
yeah, I think so. The Swedish Cub
Chef.
Cube KUBB looks new to me. He says that's one of like the little wooden castles, and you have to throw the things to knock them down.
Horseshoes? What are we?
No.
what are we
It's
doing?
the Swedish game. It's called Kube or whatever. And so I was like, oh yeah, that is.
Kube.
It's
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
yard
yeah.
game that's
Okay.
popped up. I looked it up. It's from 1911. So
That's the
sit down.
Olympics?
No. Just a new sport in general.
Oh, well, okay.
And then he also says, I don't know how old it is, but kabaddi is an awesome sport in India. I looked it up. It's from the 20s.
Is that
Come
what
on.
is it?
It's like people wrestling or something.
Well, there's a sport that I saw like recently in the last couple of years that's like it's basically like volleyball, but the ball's a lot smaller and they use their feet exclusively.
Oh, hang on. Are you talking about spike ball?
Maybe.
Nathan Wirtz writes in from Fort Wayne, Indiana. He says, if you haven't heard of spike ball, the basic premise is volleyball with a 4-square twist where 2 teams of 2 battle it out with a palm-sized rubber ball and a circular net elevated about a foot off the ground. Teams only have 3 touches on the ball, much like volleyball, and hitting, spiking, or bouncing the ball off the net below results in a change of possession. This results in some crazy, epic diving saves and massive spikes.
Is it with just their feet though, or do they catch the ball?
I assume they can catch the ball.
Okay.
You're
How
talking about
old
just
is it?
feet.
Wait,
It's from 2015, I guess.
Yeah, we found it.
Isn't like drone racing or something probably the most recent sport?
There we go. Noah from St. Paul says it's drone racing, you guys, and I think that is probably
That's probably
technically
true.
the correct
And
one.
that has potential because they could make other sports with drones.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
like
true.
Making them like, what if there were airborne battle bots?
Oh, that's very smart. Chris brought up Quidditch. Josh Cole brought up pickleball. That's from 1965. That barely counts, but I guess newish. Michael from San Diego.
I invented one just now where I switch the cameras as fast as possible. So that's the newest sport.
What's the? How are you measuring?
Who's winning?
Like, yeah.
Who could do that?
I'm winning. How fast are you guys switching cameras?
Is this in
I'm
Mario
not
and
switching
Sonic at the
cameras at
Olympics
all.
yet? This seems very fun. What do you guys like for email of the week?
I like Leo's sport that he invented.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really good.
The one where we talked about Nintendo consoles. That was good.
Oh, games that didn't live up to the premise.
I like that one.
I like that one a lot
I like
too.
where the conversation went. Really kept us on track.
Yeah, you're right. Should we go with that one?
Yeah, let's do that one.
All right. That is Jacob from Fairfax, Virginia. Congratulations. You're up on the big board. Way to go,
Hey.
Jacob. Hero of the people.
Good job, Virginia.
Podcast@gameformer.com for all emails in the future. Make the show better. But the show can't get much better than this because coming up, we have a huge talk all about Call of Duty 4.
How long do you think
Warfare.
that'll be, that talk?
I think it'll be about an hour and 25 minutes if I had to guess.
okay,
It is a deep dive. Again, if you enjoy it, please share it with a friend. Without further ado, here's Call of Duty 4 Game Club. Welcome back to the Game Informer Show, and welcome to the first and the only GI Game Club for Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare from 2007. Did we all play the right game?
I played the new one.
Oh, no! How did you get
what?
it? Accidentally. Very exciting. I'm happy to have Game Club back. As you can tell if you're watching the video version of this, a lot of people emailed in. Thank you to everybody that played this game along with us. People sent in amazing emails. There's a couple emails in here. Your head will spin for how specific they are. And anybody who gets specific, mwah, I love you. Just like one focused thing. That is the best Game Club email.
If you want your email read, that's the best
Well,
way.
I cherry pick all of them, but when you're getting hundreds of emails and it's like, here's every note from my entire playthrough, it's like, oh God, this is a nightmare. This is hours and hours and hours and hours.
Are you up late at night reading all these emails? Like, how do you actually read all these
by
emails?
candlelight.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really difficult. So let's set the table a little bit. 2007's Call of Duty 4. For me, this is a weird gap where I didn't have a console in this generation. Like I was like peak college, like sophomore year at college, right? And so I didn't buy a PS3 until later on. So I completely skipped this game when it first came out. So this is my first time playing through this game.
Wow.
I assume I'm the only one in this camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played
Yeah,
it back
yeah,
in the
I
day.
played it.
Okay. Like, have any of you played it since then?
No.
When the PS4 version came out, I played through the first mission.
Remastered?
Yeah, which is
Okay.
how I ended up playing the game again this
Yeah.
time, was the remastered
Yeah, I
version.
did the remaster on PS4.
PS4.
Oh, what about you guys?
I played the remaster.
Remaster
this
on
time.
Xbox One.
Okay. A part of me wishes that I went back and played the original even on 360 or something, because a lot of the time playing through the remastered version was like, this is very impressive. Was this in the original? Like, I had to go back, and it seems like they just, obviously textures, they completely redid those, stuff like that. And then sound design, they also tweaked a fair amount.
Yeah.
Which was one thing that really impressed me with the game. So now I'm in this murky spot of like, what? I know it sounded good in 2007, but I don't know if it sounded this good.
But it's awesome because like that's what a good remaster should do because like it didn't feel aged, but like it didn't look aged anyway. But like it kind of like held up what your memory of that game was.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially his memory.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a remake. It was just a remaster of the. So I mean, like the baseline stuff is the same. Your
Yeah, but it
experience was
looks-
the same, but it looks
much
sharper.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks-
for sure.
I went up and looked at old pictures because I was like, man, this game looks really good. And I remember it looking really good too, but I'm like, no way it looked this good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it turns out it still looked good back in the day too. But like I was impressed how not just the visuals look, but like the gameplay holds up still.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
wanna dive right into it.
Well, yeah, I was planning to set the table a little bit. Here's someone that's very basic, though. Like Andrew from Lafayette, Indiana, he says, hey, one of the things that first jumped out to me from the get-go was how quickly I was able to jump in with the controls. I haven't put any serious time into a Call of Duty since Black Ops 2, but despite branching into multitudes of different shooters and genres since, I was instantly able to pick up the controller and start playing. Something about how the controls were fluid, responsive, and polished made the game very easy to get back into. That is, I mean, obviously when it's such, a template setter for the entire industry, it is pretty easy to go back to. Like,
Yeah.
I noticed it feels a little bit, tiny bit like floatier than like the current, I played a lot of Black Ops 4 and Blackout specifically, and it feels like it's a little bit snappier with that. There's a little more head movement, reactions.
Yeah.
It's a little bit floaty, but not bad at all.
I think jumping over objects works better today. I got hung up on objects trying to like vault over them.
Yeah,
And then I would constantly think I could run and crouch to slide.
Yes,
which
same
I
here.
don't- Which is just like all shooters today. So that I would constantly like run to cover and just crouch right in front of cover
Yeah.
and like kind of shimmy my way forward.
The mantling was something where I was like, early on, it was like, okay, I tested out a couple spots. I guess there's no mantling in this game. It's like, oh, wait, no, I'm able to mantle through this window. And then up here, but it's just like inconsistent
specific
mantling.
places.
Yes, is the weird part that really tripped me up. But other than that, I thought the remaster held up really well. Like to the point of, if this game was just released in 2019, it would score pretty damn well, I think, overall.
It felt like a Call of Duty game that could have came out 2 years ago.
Right. Or in 2019 when a Modern Warfare is coming out.
Or 2 years ago.
Well,
yeah.
I'm still curious about like everyone's. Like you didn't
Yeah.
play it, but like for me, I was still like.
Oh, hang on. This is exactly the email I
Okay.
want for this setup. Nick in Atlanta just says, hey, I wanted to ask what this game really means to you. For me, Modern Warfare was a game changer. It's the reason I bought an Xbox 360 and probably the reason I still game today at almost 40 years old. I'm grateful for the friendships I made with the multiplayer, and the story's unforgettable. What does it mean to you guys? What does it mean?
I mean, it was certain. Like I played Call of Duty 2. I played those, and I just thought they were okay. And I was big in Halo world. Like I was in the camp of Halo, and even when this came out and was getting a lot of hype, I was just like, pfft. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's great, guys, but it's no Halo. And then
Well, help me out. Halo 3, was it out at this point?
was
Halo
around
3
the same
came
time,
out
yeah.
around the same time.
Okay.
There's actually a story on GameInformer.com today. You can go and read. Infinity Ward wanted to create a Halo killer before they were given the go-ahead to make a Modern Warfare game. So they actually split into two teams. One team was making a World War II Call of Duty 4. The other one was making a sci-fi game that was specifically designed to compete with Halo. And then they got the go-ahead to do a Modern Warfare game. They all just came back together and worked on that.
interesting.
Which is funny because their Halo killer didn't have to be sci-fi, but
Exactly.
ultimately Call of Duty 4 kind of did
went
put a
there.
big dent in
Yeah.
Halo, I'd say.
I mean, it outsold it that year.
Yeah.
When
But
you
I was-
combine both SKUs.
The year before this game came out, or it might have been the E3 before, I remember it was, I think, at E3 where Jason West, Vince Sampello were talking to Andy, and they were like, what do you think, Andy? Do you think we can take Halo? Do you think we can do it?
really?
Like, and they were like, because that was like, they had their eyes set on Halo, and they're like, they were nervous. They didn't think they were going to be as popular as Halo.
I love that when let you get back to your very important point, Kyle. But like, I love it when the public's perception of like, oh, I bet those Call of Duty developers are so mad at Bungie, and there's a real rivalry there. And I could see people be like, oh, everyone's cool, just relax. And then I love learning like, no, it was literally just them not seething, but sitting at their
Yeah.
desk saying like, we've got to crush those guys. You know?
I mean, you forget that like Halo was the one to beat. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it was huge. And the thing that all I was going to say was like, I found myself playing through this game, with constantly being like, all right, that's really cool. Like at the time,
Oh,
like because I
interesting.
was like campaigning for Halo for some reason. I don't know why. Like I just loved
You're a
Halo.
dumb
I was a
fanboy.
dumb fanboy at the time.
Yeah.
And there were so many moments that we'll get to where I was just like, all right, I got to give it to you guys. That was amazing. I've never done
right.
that in a video game.
It's funny. I'm kind of coming at it from a similar perspective. I was in college. I guess it was my junior year, and I was an RA, and I remember I was like really excited for Halo 3, and one of my residents in the dorm across the hall was playing the beta of Modern Warfare. He's like, dude, this is really awesome. This is gonna beat the hell out of Halo. And I'm like, there's no way this beats Halo. Are you kidding me? And then like it came out and it's like, wow, like everybody's talking about this and like only a few people are talking about Halo 3.
Yeah.
And it was you saw that shift happen like on campus. It was really cool.
Right. I was trying to put myself back in the mindset of 2007. And so I went back because my love in that era when I didn't have a console was 1UP and the 1UP podcast in general. And so I went back and listened to the GFW radio where they first talked about Call of Duty 4. And it's like, 30 minutes of Sean Elliott talking about Call of Duty 4. Like, this is exactly what I wanted from this expansion. And it was fun just hearing their raw reactions to it overall, right? Where I guess before the game released, but while Sean Elliott was playing it, he posted on a message board, I don't know if it was NeoGAF or what, just that, boy, the AI spawning in this game is pretty dumb and broken. And that like was a huge deal. It was like a huge discussion at the time, was everybody complaining about that and whether he broke embargo by talking about that and how he hates the game and 1UP's going to hate the game and the game sucks because that's the only info that was officially out there other than the beta and whatnot.
Wow.
But then it was also interesting hearing him talk about, just how it's a well-done amusement park ride. And it was, this is from 2007. And they're like, I think in the future, we're going to look back at this game and the Call of Duty campaigns like this and think that compared to like Dragon's Lair, like in the future, this is going to be laughable and just very formulaic of you can do these things, but you can't do these things. And that might be true eventually. And I'm sure some people who prefer open worlds in general might say that now. But it's interesting that even in 2019, it's like, it still holds up. People like amusement park rides, dude.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed while I was playing through the campaign is it's like, here's a really cool thing you can do. Like, hey, you can get up in the AC-130 and take out enemies from above.
Cool.
And here's this thing you can do where like you're riding around in a tank, and now here's this. Like, it's just like a constant like curated like just like here's something really
Specific.
like, badass that you're going to be able to do.
Yes, absolutely. Which is so crazy is the overall variety, and specifically then because I love the Titanfall 2 campaign, but never having played Modern Warfare 1 or 2's campaign, I played 3's, like going back and seeing this, and it's like, like I feel the Titanfall 2 campaign DNA in this campaign to such a big extent, and because of that constant variety.
It's also crazy thinking like those are two of the greatest shooter campaigns of all time, Modern Warfare 1 and Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
And largely like so many of like the main core people are the same behind those. It's just wild how
does that work?
Yeah. It's like talented people have talent.
Yeah. Just for setting the scene a little bit, in 2007, Nate from Toledo just wrote in like, hey, back in 2007, here were the big new releases. Just for a frame of reference here. Assassin's Creed, Mass Effect 1, BioShock, Rock Band 1, God of War 2. Was that 2007?
Yeah, that came out like while the PS3 was out. It was like one of the last big PS2 games.
Okay.
And then we're getting to the meat and potatoes here. 2 Drake and Josh games, Kim Possible, Global Gemini, Disney's Meet the Robinsons, Pimp My Ride, Evan Almighty, the video game, which I did not know existed.
All right.
Sounds like a replay episode.
Absolutely. And Raw Danger, of course. He says, it seems in 2007 there was still a market for TV shows and movies being turned into games, more so than there is now. Yeah, absolutely.
Wasn't that Guitar Hero 3 as well?
I
think that came alongside Rock Band 1.
It was a better era. Ian Williams says, at the time, this was probably one of the first truly next-gen games I had played. Up until 2007, I was still gaming on PS2. When I did get my 360, I had games like Blue Dragon and Tony Hawk's Project 8. The campaign feels like being in an action movie. Games like Halo 3 and BioShock are phenomenal, but they hit much different tones. BioShock being almost a horror survival game, and Halo 3's space and sci-fi aspect making it feel more gamey overall. Do you guys remember feeling that? I feel like a lot of people had that obviously with Call of Duty 2, right?
I mean, that's
Where
where
it felt next gen.
That was like, I feel like the word set piece moments started with Modern Warfare, with 4 Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot of you like shooting a little bit. Wow, look at that thing that happened. Shooting a little bit. Whoa, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah.
Some of it for me was like super mundane stuff though. Like when you're on the helicopter on that first level and you just look at the rope that you're going down. I'm like, this looks like a real rope. I remember like being mesmerized by the rope.
Look at this rope.
I thought it was really good
honestly.
looking, and it was. And then like there's a scene where you like bomb that tower and the tower falls over. Remember what I'm talking about?
Okay. You're also in a tower later on that tips over. If that's
Oh, it's like a radio tower or something.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you just
yeah.
like explode.
I think some helicopters crashed too.
Well, but I know it seems stupid, like just this like tower falling over,
No,
but
I'm
like
with
it
you,
looked
man.
really good
Yeah.
back in the day. And I was
Yeah.
like, I've never seen this in a video game before.
Amazing, like they're not physics, but like animation displays of like things collapsing and blowing
even
up.
beyond
Yeah.
that, I mean, going into this, even from the opening, when you leave the building after the obstacle course, it's like there is so much movement in this world. I feel like that is the weird game changer. And people see it as just overall level of polish, but it's just the world is active and
Tanks moving, airplanes
even if it's not
overhead.
reactive, absolutely. And I feel like it keeps up throughout the entire game. Like everywhere you look, things are dynamic in a way that was unprecedented in 2007.
Yeah.
So let's see. Kevin from Bordentown, New Jersey says, "Hello, I'm excited to dig into Call of Duty 4 and play through the campaign for the first time in 12 years. I noticed the resounding quote on the back of the 360 box. Quote, the most photorealistic video game we've ever seen." From Game Informer. I tried to find the original review on the Game Informer website, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. Are you able to republish the original review? That would be fun. I went back and found it. It's so Adam Biesner, which we should have invited him on this podcast.
Oh, that would've been cool.
I think he's still in Minnesota,
Yeah.
isn't he?
I believe so.
But for the review, he says, I can throw all the superlatives I can think of at the gameplay, but what makes it better than any of the first-person shooters around, ultimately, it comes down to polish. The team at Infinity Ward just gets it. This is simply the best fusion of RPG-style persistent progression and action-oriented first-person gameplay around, and he gave it a perfect 10. And then Matt Burt's did the backup review, and he also gave it a perfect 10, which is wild. But, that quote from Game Informer, it also reminded me of the old cover story, where it says on the cover, the most intense first-person shooter we've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Which I can believe it. But I read that cover story, and there's a couple interesting beats. Like, one of them was that it's such a weird detail to put in the cover story, but I love that Adam did it. I don't know who wrote the cover story. I assume it was Adam.
Probably Adam.
But he said that
You read the whole thing? You didn't look at the byline?
I don't think
We
there was
didn't
a
have
byline.
bylines back then.
Yeah.
Really?
It seems like a terrible idea.
Weird.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I take back my
You
insult.
can ask Andy about that.
Oh, really? He resisted for a long time?
Yeah.
Okay. Love that guy, though.
Yeah, he's great.
Champion.
Best boss.
Anyways, but in the cover story, they note that even though it's Call of Duty 4, right, but Call of Duty 3 was made by Treyarch
yeah.
at the time, that they said that during the demo, when they booted the game up on PC, the file was cod3.exe. Infinity Ward just called it Call of Duty 3 internally. And
Oh.
even back then, it was very much that kind of, I don't know if machismo, but kind of like,
Third installment.
they see them as very separate games from separate studios. And I think the outside world sees it as, I don't know, it's all Call of Duty, right?
Oh, well, they thought they were working on Call of Duty 3 for a long time. They didn't know that other game was in development
What?
until
No.
until
Really?
fairly late in the process. Before it came out, obviously, but they
Yeah.
thought they were working on Call of Duty 3.
Oh, I had no idea. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. You just remember that from the cover story back in the day? Or?
Yeah, from I don't remember where, but yeah, I'm talking to Andy or something.
Huh. I also found it interesting because with the new Modern Warfare, which is Game Informer's cover story, gameinformer.com/Modern Warfare, they were talking a lot about, we actually want to show Modern Warfare and what it's like. And then going back to this old cover story, back then for the original Modern Warfare, they're like, we don't really want to show Modern Warfare because it doesn't work for gameplay. Like Grant, the studio head, he's like, yeah, an IED blowing a tire off and somebody running away isn't Infinity Ward style combat. But that is what Modern Warfare was, especially back in 2007, right? Like, peakish Iraq War, Afghanistan invasion, stuff like that. And so what it has so much DNA from is because they had to push so hard for getting Activision to create a modern game that was separate from World War II. What they needed to do is we need Infinity Ward style combat and our standard style combat. So we need to build up Russian forces to the point that it's basically the equivalent of the Third Reich just for having a huge army to combat. Because if you're just doing Modern Warfare and you're fighting insurgents, Infinity Ward doesn't do that style of combat. We don't think it's fun. It's just a weird dynamic, right?
That's another thing that they had problems with moving to Modern War is that talking to the studio on our cover trip, they were like, yeah, we just had no idea how to make modern locations in this game.
Yeah.
They were like, all of our specialties were locked in World War II. So it's everything we made initially was James Bond feeling, which was interesting.
They,
Yeah.
they still got a few country farmhouses in this game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Which,
Heat, that level in particular, it's that might as well be from World War II.
Yeah.
You're still shooting up tanks, which, by the way, the UI on that tank missile launcher, the best. It feels like something from Aliens or something. Maybe it's just clunky military technology, but like the slow like and then it shoots out and
And
launches.
then I love watching it like shoot off into the
Yes.
sky, and then
It's
it's
so
such a
good.
long delay too, where you're like, "Is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen?" And then it comes down and like hits the tank. And you're like, "Yes!"
Well, 'cause
it feels so good.
I wonder if we all had this experience the first time using that weapon. You fire it off, and you're like, "Oh, I guess I missed," because the
guess it was
missile
a-
just didn't go straight, and then
it a
it
dud?
comes a few seconds later, and you're like, "Oh, cool."
Oh, no, I knew what was happening.
as well. General gameplay impressions. Should we dive into that?
Sure.
It's tough to
Yeah.
know where to start here when we have so many emails. Thanks again to everybody that wrote in. Podcast@gameformer.com. Okay, Jonah Gomez from Richfield, Washington says, "Hey, I finally played a proper version of Modern Warfare, and I had a great time going through it. I noticed something interesting, though. The insurgent forces had multiple down animations. Sometimes they would try and crawl to an ally, pull out a sidearm, or even hold a grenade to try and get you as you pass by. I thought this was interesting because you don't see such a lot of natural feeling variety in down animations in games, especially from that generation." Yeah, the animations really popped me. And that was one where it's like, were these tweaked for the remaster? But I don't believe they were.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
It
think
is
so.
wild. Yeah, the guy crawling away stood out, and also just little reactions. Like later on in the game, somebody threw a grenade next to Price, and I just stood back and watched. Like, I'm curious how the animation reacts to this. And it didn't blow him up, obviously, but he kind of gave like a whoa and like flew in this incredibly natural way back a little bit. It was like, good God, 2007. Wild animations.
And I was still finding new, like, oh, I just took damage animations from the AI where it was like, I shot him in like the throat and he like started struggling to breathe. And it was like, oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
There was an era where it felt like animations, like death animations, were a big deal. I remember like GoldenEye. I remember the animations in that like being a big deal. And then it felt like the industry slowly transitioned away from that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Well,
I don't
now
know.
it's-
Or
now
maybe
it's
it
all
just
physics.
Well, maybe it became harder. You had to like have a physics engine. But like, so it's interesting that these stood out.
Yeah.
Like as kind of like setting itself apart. It's like, oh, we're gonna go back to that.
Well, if you like people writhing in pain in the death animation, you'll love the
Oh,
new Modern
boy,
Warfare
do
campaign.
I.
Please look forward to it. Darius writes in, he says, "Hey, Ben, Paul, Grant, Edgar, and Michael. I remember on the lead up.
All right.
I remember on the lead up to Call of Duty 4 coming out, getting really excited after reading about the bullet penetration. It felt like such a huge leap forward toward realism and was used in lots of interesting ways in the campaign. And getting a wall bang kill in multiplayer was always satisfying and hilarious. I can't pinpoint when they dropped it from the series. I know Call of Duty 5 and Modern Warfare 2 had it still at some points, but they stopped that feature. And I'm really glad it's coming back for Modern Warfare 2019. Yeah, that was surprising to me that during the tutorial, it's like, hey, shoot through walls. Like, well, Call of Duty, you can shoot through walls? All right. And then even in the campaign, there's like areas where you have to shoot people out of a window, and it's like, okay, you have to snipe, but they specifically make sure you're sniping through a wall just to remind you that that is a feature in the game. And correct me if I'm wrong, Shay, but didn't they say something on the cover story trip about like how that code was still in the engine and it was just like unused and clipped off from 1,000 years ago? And they're like, oh, let's just turn that functionality back on.
I don't know if it was specifically that.
It was something like that,
Yeah,
though, right?
it was like, I know that's why like so many of the multiplayer maps in Modern Warfare 2019 have metal doors instead of wooden ones because it's
Right.
just like an advantage, like a weird advantage of like,
Oh,
all
interesting.
right, wooden doors are easier to shoot through.
Yeah, it's a smart idea. Let's see, other things that people noticed. Emmett Watkins did a great job writing it a ton, saying, hey, it's cool that the battle chatter is actually accurate. A number of times I noticed that when I hear a call out for enemies northwest, there are actually enemies northwest. It's a lifesaver. It's so nice to have that radio chatter just to let you know. It was really helpful. Like, hey, enemies on the second floor. And it's like, all right. Or like you're going upstairs and it's like, second floor, there are good guys up there. Third floor, there's 3 baddies to the far room. It's like, okay, I know exactly what I need to know. And it was surprisingly spot on. Like I was expecting it to be more off.
A lot, like a big broad thing about that whole experience of like them talking well while you're part of the team. It really often, for me at least, felt like there's this really smart team of like expert veterans who know exactly what they're doing. And I was just kind of there, like running around. It's like, what do I do, guys? Do you
The
need some
wild
help?
card.
You know, like, and like, it was almost like they're like, yeah, no, you go in that room and shoot that guy. You'll do good.
Right,
you know,
right.
It's like,
Expendable
all right.
Kyle.
That's the that was kind of something that they touched on our trip as well, is like the like on those coordinated missions where it's like you're supposed to be methodically working through like in formation through a house or something. It's like, how do we train the player to do that and like
Yeah.
stay in line? And I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out like in the wild, but like the the one mission we saw in Modern Warfare 2019,
which was a video.
is going to very much require you to do that if you want to be successful.
I mean, there were a lot of missions where it was like 2 or 3 guys in front of me walking through a doorway and me just like pushing them, like, go,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get in here too, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can
or
I
it's
play?
like, I'm running forward and it's like, no one's following me. Then I go back and it's like, they're all in this room. What are they looking at? Do they want me to go this direction?
Yeah.
But I feel like story-wise, it works out okay, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
it's
love the
fine.
idea of
Yeah.
Soap being the rookie in the beginning, and by the end, he's doing very important stuff. But in the beginning, that really blew me away in the first mission, which let's just kick it off here. Nick S. from Marquette, Michigan says, hey, as I was playing through one of the first missions where you're on a ship, I noticed that it really felt like you're on a ship with the waves rocking the ship. I actually started to feel a little bit seasick, which I hadn't really experienced before. And Sutton says, I recently played through the remastered version of Modern Warfare, and I have to say the opening mission is one of the best of all time. Crew expendable. We start with rappelling down into the cargo ship at night during a storm and fighting our way inside to secure a package. Captain Price leading the team. This is followed by an escape of the sinking ship as you traverse the narrow, twisting hallways and have to jump aboard the helicopter at the last second. It really sets the tone for the epic story to come.
Oh, yeah.
It's wild because it's like, first of all, Albert Serrano, on veteran difficulty at the bottom of the ship, there's a guy that's holding a Desert Eagle, and he's a secret mini boss. Pretty
weird.
sneaky, but I guess it's
Yeah,
just
never saw
really
that guy.
challenging. There's this one guy who will just pop you and you'll die over and
crazy.
over again.
It's interesting. I think we talked about it even before you guys headed out for the cover story, where we're like, man, Price is really like an icon for Call of Duty. Why does he stand out so much more than other characters from Call of Duty?
Yeah.
And like just starting that first mission, I very quickly was like, oh yeah, this is the reason like Price is, he's like in your face. Like you get
Multiple
a
times
chance-
in that first mission, he gets really close
Like
to
you
you.
look at him a lot and he looks distinct. And I think that's in part like why he is still like the character that people point to when it comes to Call of Duty, is because like you see him a lot and he talks to you a lot and like he's got a memorable accent. you know?
And the first thing you do on the obstacle course, right, is he comes up and he's like, "Who's this Muppet?" And he's like
Yeah.
joking. It's like, "Oh, this guy has a personality. Okay, ready to go."
And he was in 2 as well, right?
And 3.
Like
Yeah.
Call of Duty, like the old World War II ones, which
Oh,
is
is
like
that
weird.
right?
Yeah, so it was weird. I remember like when they announced or they showed him off, I was like, wait a minute, because he was in World War II and now he's this, and he doesn't look any older. Like,
Yeah.
like he's a different. He's just Price.
He's Paul Rudd.
Price
Is
Price.
that facial hair like allowed in the military? I don't know.
It's the Brits.
Price.
They can do what the hell they want.
It's the Brits.
So a lot of people wrote in about him. Ian Williams says, Price's writing is so smart. He's authoritative but approachable, trusting but no nonsense. His look is pretty cool, and the character has some great funny banter with the team. But mostly it's the voice. He said Modern Warfare's voice cast is one of the pillars that make the game so good, with Price probably at the top. And being from the UK, I immediately recognized him and Gaz from TV. I grew up on like The Bill and EastEnders.
And they have a different voice actor for Price this time around, right?
That's true.
For 2019, so we'll see how that works out.
Jack from Nevada has a very good point too. And I think this conveys what's so great about that overall first mission. He says, Captain John Price is beloved because, like Solid Snake or Sam Fisher, he represents our ideal, if somewhat implausible, image of what our special forces officers should be. His resolve and commitment to the mission are absolute, and his ability to command some of the most dangerous soldiers is unparalleled, to the point that not a single order is ever remotely questioned, because everyone knows Price is making the right call for the greater good. Every single time, no matter how bad the consequences will be for him and his men. He's so calm and collected under fire that I, as the player, felt calmer and more composed, because I knew the good captain would never die, no matter how many times he got shot, and that he'd always be there barking out relevant enemy positions and orders at me, and actually shooting and killing enemy soldiers, unlike so many useless AI companions. He says he's just the best. Which I think that's the crazy thing, is that first mission, I was expecting to be the hero going through Call of Duty games, playing some later campaigns, and in this one it's like, yeah, you're sitting back, and there's something so fun. I'm not a huge military fiction guy or anything, but there's something so fun about just seeing a team that is so good.
Yeah.
Like, and they go on without you, and there's clearing out rooms one by one. They're using what I'd imagine is the correct lingo, and just watching like this well-oiled machine move with or without you. Like, they're popping out guys left and right without you. Like, that's so appealing.
There's something in storytelling in general that's just fun, of watching people really good at their job doing it well. Like, that's why heist movies are so much fun, because it's just people coordinating a plan and executing it perfectly. You know?
Yeah.
That's why I love Cooking Mama. That kind of thing.
That's a great point. Carl Jones writes in and says, why is Captain Price so loved? Honestly, because he's the only one who talks during the game. He also has more backstory than the player's character does, with the whole ghillie suit mission and all. The only thing I know about Soap is that he's probably clean.
He's got a good last name.
Yeah. Let's see. Leah from Northeast also
He's
wrote
slippery.
Leah wrote in saying, hey, I had no emotional attachment to any of these characters and would love to see Call of Duty get the Spider-Man treatment in terms of character development. But I'm out of touch with the Call of Duty community. How much do Call of Duty players really care about the campaigns and the overall story?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
I mean, some take it very, very seriously. Like, Price is a hero. Like, that guy compared him to Solid Snake, and I guess I get it.
I was able to follow the story. Like, when I first played it the first time, I don't think I really took away what that story was about, other than like, oh, nukes or something, and I got to stop it. Like, I think I followed it better this time, and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of an interesting, like, political thing going on here.
Yeah. I mean, my trick this time was like going in, I was like, all right, I'm going to pay attention during the loading
Paying
screens.
attention.
I mean, because when I first played it, I just treated those as like interstitials between levels that I was like, okay, it's just loading the game. I'm not going to pay attention. But this time I was like, all right, let me make sure I'm like actually absorbing what they're saying. And it is important stuff happening.
Oh, yeah. Like, if you missed that first one where it's like, hey, there's kind of a civil war going on in Russia, which is just one line as far as I can tell in one of those where it really drives that home. It's like, if you missed that, I was confused for quite a while. Like, if you pause me at any moment and said, who are you shooting right now? I'd have a tough time telling you. You know, and they have little hints where it's like, are these the good Russians or the bad Russians? Like, okay, there's the ultra-nationalists. I think I got it. But still, there were points where I completely lost the bigger story, but I think it really excels, and maybe it doesn't matter as much because mission to mission, I feel like they're so clear. But like, we are rescuing Nikolai. We are trying to get from here to there because of this. And so when everything is so focused in each mission, larger story, you get it.
Yeah.
Russia is
bad guy
being shady.
Nikolai's in hell right now. We're going to walk him out.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
I mean, you say bad guy, but even then it was like, okay, al-Assad. Oh no, I guess he's dead. Now it's this Imran guy. Okay, and then I guess it's after his son, and I guess he's the big bad guy. You know, it's like I didn't really feel that connected to like a central villain because it shifted throughout the game.
They tried to have that twist, and I don't know if it fully worked, you know?
Yeah.
But,
That's something they abandoned with the sequel, right? Where it was like, wasn't it just Makarov in the sequel?
Right, and then Modern Warfare 3 is when you actually take him down, right? Yeah, and also I was just thankful, maybe Modern Warfare 2, I think it does this thing, but I was thankful to have just a military story where there's no espionage, there's no backstabbing. I was waiting for like, oh, is this when it's revealed that Griggs is secretly working for the enemies or anything like that? It's like, it's a pretty straightforward, focused, simple story.
You mean Mark Grigsby?
Mark Grigsby, the
You don't like
animator.
backstabbing, or like what's the criticism there? I'm just curious.
I just feel like so many stories. Maybe I just love Mission Impossible too much. But it's like, all right, which character is secretly
There's
gonna
always
be
a double
evil?
agent.
This is
let's
the
see.
one.
Let's see how this is going to work out here. We could go so many directions, but let's stick on story real quick here. Let's see. Dominic Sachoki, friend of the show, says, now that I've played it again, I think it's strange how many people like the game. I don't know what people see in Price. Much of the campaign felt like it did when I played Medal of Honor games as a kid. There are characters, there's dialogue, but it's the filler and flavor that builds up the gameplay. It's a lot of going through levels and shooting people and doing the same old thing until it's not. Well, I disagree. But anyways, but he says, and it's in those handful of instances where the game asks players to do something different or gets really political that I think the game really still holds up. This is why people still talk about All Gillied Up. It takes place in a different time. You're doing different things. As for the political angle, it's amazing how much the game gets away with. An opening credit sequence in the eyes of a president of a Middle Eastern nation about to be killed, the nuke going off and killing one of the player characters. I know that 12 years isn't exactly modern anymore, but there are moments here that resonate with the political landscape of today. Summing it up, is this game political as all hell? Yeah, of course. I know it's a hot debate, but it is pretty wild. Like Michael Fulton writes in, says, hey, Call of Duty Modern Warfare came out in 2007 and was set in 2011. I find it interesting that the first part of the game revolves around an uprising in Saudi Arabia that sets into motion the rest of the game. This is odd considering in the real world the Arab Spring occurred in 2011.
Oh, weird.
Yep, that is weird. Also, Vin Sonika says, hey, GI, if there's any aspect of Call of Duty 4 that particularly stands out to me, it's the plot of a fictional civil war between the Russian government and Russian ultranationalists who wish to revert the country back to a Soviet Union state, as well as al-Assad's coup in the Middle East. I guess what strikes me the most is how plausible this could be in real life. This seems like a legitimately believable set of events and one that was excellently written. Let's see. Ethan just says, yeah. Ethan and John Chambers kind of read in with the same thought of just, yeah, I forgot how many bombastic, over-the-top moments there are in this on like a political level. He brings up, John Chambers says people were up in arms about white phosphorus being a kill streak and the new Modern Warfare and what that means, all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, in this game, everything's pretty grisly. I mean, Death from Above is messed up. Like, it's darker and more disturbing than you remember, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Is Death from Above the one where you're in the plane?
The AC-130, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That, I don't know if we want to jump ahead to that, but that is the moment in the game where I was like, I think it was the casual chatter that made me uncomfortable. Like
Well,
when you're in the thick of it and you're like, there's explosions happening, everything around you is crazy. That's like one thing. That's like an action movie. But once you're above overhead and just casually being like, all right, we killed a bunch of guys there. Like I felt kind of gross.
That was my favorite section by far. I thought that was fascinating. Honestly, I think it's some of the best voice acting that ever occurred in 2011. Like,
It feels
I love
real.
their tone. It's incredible.
It feels accurate.
Yeah.
From what little I know about that element of actual warfare.
There are plenty of
just seeing
videos
that
out there
footage,
that I think have that same tone, right? Where it's like, hot damn, light them up.
Yeah.
And then they're like, this will be good on the highlight reel.
I
Like,
think-
just that type of
I think they're actually coached to do that though, like because you don't want to get too like emotionally like high when you're in the middle of
I
like
don't
a
know.
shootout.
That'd be interesting.
Well,
But-
that's my understanding, and I could
Okay.
be wrong, but like I think that's accurate to like what the military wants them to operate like that.
Sure. I also loved when, I think it was Price, would like radio in and you could hear them on the ground. And I wanted them to sound more manic. They do it a little bit, right? Where it's like, all right, we got guys on the left, get down here, fire, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I love that idea of just the super chill AC-130 pilots and crew up there. And then every time you hear just a glimpse of what's happening on the ground,
Yeah,
it's like, it is an
just a
S show down
juxtaposition.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was 2007. This was before like, I mean, I wasn't aware of like drone strikes and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Were you guys like in 2007? Like,
mean, I
it
saw-
feels like that predates this a little bit.
I saw footage like that. Like that was the thing about that level that was so impressive. I was like, that looks like what I've seen on the news.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It was
Maybe I just
starting to
wasn't
get
aware of it.
around. Like in the podcast, GFW, Sean Elliott's like a big military nerd guy. And he's like, oh yeah, you go to like, militaryfilms.net and this type of footage is out there and that's what they're basing it on. But Emmett Watkins writes in there saying, the AC-130 mission feels eerie right now. Now that I've seen so much drone footage from like WikiLeaks and the likes, the ragdolls and the heat vision makes it unsettling. Definitely imagine the new Modern Warfare will have me similarly unsettled.
Well, I mean, on that, like the two guys who came from Naughty Dog to Infinity Ward to work on the new campaign, they specifically referenced this mission as like, we wanted to be like more like down the path that this mission went, only like, they said like this kind of gave you like this detached sense of empathy for like the people you're taking out, but they want to go more direct with that. So
Well, I think overall, and this is probably a conclusion statement, but I think that's what's interesting about going back and playing this game is like the standout moments are the ones that are a little bit more unsettling, a little bit more political, if I may say so, right? A little bit just different off the beaten path, things you wouldn't expect, not when you're running and gunning. Yet it seems like the evolution of the Call of Duty series, and specifically with Modern Warfare 3, it's let's turn this more into an action movie. And like the takeaway is action set pieces. And it's like the takeaway should be bold, weird stuff for a first-person game, right?
yeah. I mean, those moments like the president sequence.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like that was the moment that
yeah.
I was like, I don't think I've ever done anything like this in a video game. Like that is crazy.
what were you riding in the back of the car?
Yeah, and then just
Yeah.
the conclusion. Like it blew my mind, you know?
I remember
that one unnerved me. Yeah. for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Barrett Boswell says, I replayed the remastered version on PS4 and felt the prologue mission where you are the president was more impactful than I remember playing the original. Seeing the chaos erupting as you are riding in the backseat of the car seemed more memorable. I appreciated the fact, too, that during the experience you have very minimal control of what your character can do, so it makes you feel more like a prisoner. Aaron Cole has a very thoughtful email saying, I can't think of anything smaller to talk about than the random rifle shell hanging from the rearview mirror of the car when you're first driven through the streets of the Middle East to be executed. What's the deal with that thing? Do insurgents or the militia or whatever just drive around with ammunition hanging from the mirror? I don't think I remember a single thing developers added to those streets to show off the chaos of the setting, which I believe was the point of the scene, but I watched that shell swing back and forth the entire way.
Yeah.
That is odd. But back to the AC-130, a lot of people wrote in about it, obviously. Hunter Clement says about that mission, when I played this mission in high school, I thought it was so cool. Then I played it for the game club, and I couldn't help but think about drone operators. They go through PTSD because they're not sure who they've killed, and yet the men in the AC-130 nonchalantly talk about killing Russian combatants. I'm hoping a game can tell the story of these operators who suffer the effects of the battlefield combat without actually being on the field. We also had...
Real quick, I'm by the way, I'm thankful that people felt similarly because like
Yeah.
I don't know, I was like, does something change in me that this is really bugging me now? And,
Right.
and like I'm glad to hear that other people kind of feel in the same way.
Yep, Zach
Do you
wrote
think that
in-
was their intention when they were designing it? Were
That's
they
a great
wanting to make
question.
people
I'm
questions
sure
of
it was. I mean, I wonder if it was just largely received differently than they expected. If we get him on the
maybe.
podcast in the future talking about Modern Warfare, I'd love to ask him. Zach wrote in saying, yeah, it just made me feel dirty when they said like good kill and they cracked jokes about the lives they'd just taken. In hindsight, though, especially with the sequels in mind, one of the main themes of the series is about how people choose not to value the lives of others. So it makes a lot more sense within that context. But I've grown to really appreciate the level.
So I'm sounding like a real asshole for saying AC-130 was a really cool sequence earlier on, but I totally meant from like a gameplay perspective.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, psycho.
Yeah. All right.
Well, here we got this guy, Matt, wrote in talking about all the things he did in the game and how fun it was. He says, I flew in an AC-130 and I laughed as I smoked the pathetic ground troops scrambling for their lives.
All right.
Did Brian Shea write that?
No, actually, I'm sorry. This is from Matt Burtz's review.
Oh,
wow. All right.
I'm curious how he would react to that.
Oh, interesting.
He wasn't in today. I was going to ask him about that, but he was talking about all the awesome things, and I was like, laugh. Like that's the way that was perceived back then.
At the time, it was also you were kind of just like blown away by everything that was happening in the game. So it was like you were still sort of thinking about like, oh, that crazy thing happened. Like I don't know, you approach it from a different perspective on that first playthrough. I think.
Yeah, that's true.
I wonder too, just like video games were very video gamey in 2007. You know, I mean, you were just like, you think of Halo and how like,
yeah, and those
just,
two
like,
Drake and Josh games.
Exactly. Oh man, just how bombastic and cartoony everything was.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so
Right.
you like going into this game back then. I wonder if we brought that into it. Like nothing felt real because it
Yeah.
all felt like a video game. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
think
hear
so.
you. Will Paulette has an interesting point that should be mentioned too. He said the radio chatter in the AC-130 nagged me. It bugged me for several reasons. One of them was that the dialogue became repetitive really fast, and also the dialogue is really disturbing. But yeah, we should mention that like it is interesting, their tone, but they do repeat things quite a bit in that line. But still, I thought in that scene it was pretty accurate too. For like, okay, we got guys coming on the left, don't shoot the car, watch out for the flares. Like everything was very accurate and to the minute.
You think in retrospect this is like more unnerving than like No Russian from 2?
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I think that would be pretty disturbing too.
Well, yeah. I'm not Brian Shea or anything.
I think it would be tough to top No Russian in terms of like how disturbing it is.
I've been
'cause-
thinking about that because you can definitely see like, okay, they were trying for something, and then in 2 they went further with it with No Russian,
Yeah.
I think. But then I think the reaction to that, they pared back after that, and
Yeah.
maybe that's why they were less, I don't know, political or less like trying to unnerve you.
Maybe. I don't know.
So it seems interesting with the new one. They're definitely like going all in,
Oh boy, are they? Yeah,
going
big
deep
time.
and hard.
They said that we asked about like, is there going to be a nuke moment in this game? And they're like, the entire campaign is a nuke.
Yeah, they were
moment.
like, we keep getting asked that internally, like, oh, what's your No Russian in this game? What's your nuke scene? And they're like, they've just stopped asking because it's like the whole campaign. They're like, there's probably like 8 or 9 moments like that in this campaign, is what they've said.
Hey, you guys want to stay on this disturbing theme for a little bit longer?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Sit next to Kyle.
All right, I'm
Yeah,
warning you.
on the disturbing front, I got a trophy for killing a dog.
Okay, yeah, we can derail this.
right,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
said sticking on the disturbing
Well, I had
moment.
an email that was the king disturbing, but yeah, what's up with those doggies? Justin S. from Alexandria writes in and says, during my recent playthrough of COD 4, one detail stuck out to me, and it was the attack dog. Even with all the standout campaign moments in this game, the animation of the German shepherds attacking you and going for the jugular is still stuck in my head and made me a bit squeamish.
Yeah.
Did you all have a reaction to those pups?
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to pet the doggy.
I didn't expect so many dogs. It was
I don't remember
ever-present.
them from my first time. Like,
Oh, really?
The biggest like standout of the dogs in Call of Duty for me is World at War's multiplayer, because I remember that was
Oh,
like
sure.
a kill streak
Send them
perk.
out, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I wonder, you shoot so many dogs in this game. It's like having the dog be the star of the show in Ghost with Riley. Was
Oh,
that
yeah,
Infinity
yeah.
Ward like trying to compensate for that? Or like, no, we're dog lovers. Look, Riley's the coolest, right? We'll do the jaw opening animation over and over again. But even, it's like I loved, and we'll talk about I'll Get It Up in a bit, but I love just that weird moment of like, oh, there's just a wild dog out here. Let's try and sneak around him. And then later on, you see all those dogs in the pool. And so I was like, well, I guess I got to do it. And so I chucked a grenade down in that pool.
No.
It went off. It might have killed like one. But then the awesome part is all the other dogs then ran out. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be like inside. They're going to come around and come eat me alive. But instead they ran out and they ate all the enemies.
Oh.
And I was like,
interesting.
oh, thank God. All right, it's cool to actually have the dogs on your side instead of just trying to get them off you for once.
I approached it differently, where I did not interact with them at all, and I left them alone
Yeah.
because I'm not a monster.
Me too.
How's that?
Yeah, they still scattered from me though when I left them alone. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they just
So I had to
hung
play
out.
that mission twice because it glitched out on me at the very last sequence. So I had to
really?
play the little escape section from All Gillied Up
I
all over
played
again.
fetch with them
Really?
I reformed
With
them,
a grenade.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, let's do the seriously the disturbing one.
Yes.
And this is
Alright.
going out on a limb here. But
Okay.
Phil S. wrote in just asking, like, hey, do you find some games harder to enjoy or even personally disinteresting because of real-world events? Like, he brought up, like, the entire time he was playing through this for Game Club, he just kept thinking about the shootings in El Paso and Dayton.
Yeah.
Did it cross
Oh.
any of your minds while playing it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it did a lot for me
100%.
too.
Yeah. I mean, you're shooting. Like I can't separate that.
I know it's a tricky subject, but yeah, I think I had somebody in my living room like watching me play for a little bit, and it was like, it's unspoken, but like I know this feels gross right now. I know it feels gross to just be like unloading into this enemy horde, right? Even though they're evil Russians.
Yeah, and I mean that. God, if you want to talk about like no Russian again, like different context today than it had back
Yeah.
then. I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's weird like when it's like ultra gritty and realistic, like Modern Warfare is. Like I play Overwatch every single night and never crosses my mind once. But like
Right.
when it's like set up the way these missions are, then yeah, it does kind of it's
Yeah.
omnipresent.
How's your soy milk, by the way, in that bottle? Is
Oh,
it-
it's water.
Oh, cool. Anyway, sorry. Cool YouTube comments. Hey, speaking of it being realistic, Matthew Teese from Blacksburg, Virginia says, for a game that prides itself on being realistic, I found the inclusion of collectibles to be rather strange. I remember the very first time I played the game, I didn't even realize they existed until I stumbled across one in one of the last levels. It's just a remnant of this era of gaming, I guess.
It was the laptops, right?
I didn't mind that so much because like I guess it makes sense that you would be going around collecting enemy intel as you're like infiltrating their
So
safe
I didn't even
houses.
get one. They're like laptops.
Yeah. It
I
does.
don't- I got like 7 or 8.
It's like enemy intel or something like that.
Yeah.
It didn't
Okay.
feel out of place. Like there were just like laptops. Like sure, I would grab
and like when
those,
you
maybe.
beat the game, like based on how many you've collected, that's like the cheats that you unlock for your second playthrough.
Oh, let's see. An attack corgi, Hunter Clements, is wondering if you have a favorite cheat that you guys used.
Oh, I never.
I didn't really mess around with those.
No, I
actually.
didn't.
Even at the time, I only played it through once, and I played a
Really?
little bit of multiplayer. But yeah, yeah.
Did you check those out?
No, I didn't. I was reading online. There's one that like replaces everybody's head with a watermelon, though, and that seems very fun. I'm very into that type of
Is
thing.
it really?
I think so. I
Oh,
think that's what I was
weird.
reading.
It's like that GoldenEye approach.
Yeah,
sort of,
yeah.
Donkey Kong mode.
Yeah.
Are watermelons just like the funnest thing to explode? Because I remember that in like Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah.
Like you could
It's
shoot
got to
the
be a
watermelons.
remnant of Metal Gear Solid 2. Wouldn't you think so? That got the ball rolling,
No, I
the
think
watermelon
people
rolling
like to
downhill.
shoot watermelons.
I think it's just
like
Gallagher.
fun.
Yeah.
Gallagher started it.
Honestly, that
That's
could be.
It's head sized. It's got red
Head
stuff inside.
sized?
it.
Head sized.
I mean,
Yeah, what are you doing?
I don't.
Maybe
Anyways,
your head.
maybe your big head. Anyways, let's just get this last disturbing one out of the way. Alex from Brazil says, howdy, crew. Got to talk about the scene in the mission Shock and Awe where after a daring chopper pilot rescue, the nuke goes off. I was blown away, pun not intended, and reacted much like the infamous Game of Thrones Red Wedding scene. Has any other game or in the series of Call of Duty shocked you in such a jaw-dropping way?
Or oddest.
Do you guys remember your reactions to that?
It was similar to the president moment where
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I've ever experienced something like this in a video game where like the protagonist that you're playing as, like you see their death from the first person and like crawling out of the helicopter and seeing the mushroom cloud in the distance. It's
awesome.
like insane.
And just the idea that you have control, I love that. Where at first I was like, because I've heard about it so much, I don't think I'd ever actually seen it. So I assumed it was just nuke goes off, white flash. Like I had no idea there was going to be, okay, you're going back to rescue this female helicopter pilot.
Yeah.
And then in the meanwhile, your chopper crashes, then you're actually crawling out and looking at it. And I was like, oh. It almost feels like Metal Gear Solid 4, like the hallway,
Yeah.
you know?
Also, that whole sequence, I really like the sort of like micro story happening there of like we got to go back. It's dangerous. We know it's dangerous. There is a nuke somewhere, and like I'm so used to stories where like or movies or etc. where it's like there's danger. We're gonna go, but we're still gonna be successful despite the danger. And this is
Yeah.
like you were not successful despite the danger. Like
Right.
I don't see that often in any fiction.
And
you know?
like just knowing what happens in that mission going in, like the opening scene where all the helicopters are like flying in, like all heroically, like,
very
yeah,
cool.
we're gonna get
Yeah.
them. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh man, it's like when you know, like the Red Wedding, for example. It's like, oh well, look, there's this wedding
Having a
happening.
party.
And it's like, oh no, just waiting for it to happen.
Right.
You
right.
mentioned that Adam and Bertz did the review for that. They played that in the 4th floor conference room.
Oh, okay.
And there's like, for people who don't know, there's like 2 thin walls between that and the bullpen. And so they were in there, like, they played through the campaign in like one day because it's not super long. But there's one point during the middle of the day when they were just like, whoa, whoa, and like they were
Really?
yelling, and we're like, what the hell's happening? Like this is crazy. And then I found out later after I played the game that it was that level.
Oh, that's cool.
That
That's
when
a
the
weird
nuke went
reaction.
off, they were like, whoa! Like they were just so surprised that it happened that
That's
they
funny.
both
Yeah, because
screamed.
you've been conditioned by every video game you've ever played that like, oh, the heroes are gonna get away by like the skin of their teeth. But
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I thought too when I played it, and he landed and he got up. I was like, oh man, he's gonna survive this. This is
Yeah,
crazy. And then
yeah.
you slowly like realize as he's walking, like, oh, he's not.
Well,
going to
he's not,
survive
and also
this.
like the guy next to you can see. I assume he's being affected by radiation or something. It's like this weird internal, like, wow.
Yeah.
the interesting thing from our conversation at Infinity Ward,
Yes,
to
Brian
reference
Shea.
that again, is that the animation team fucking hated that scene. They hated it. Like
that?
Joel Emsley was like, "Oh, well, you get up, right? No, he just dies. Oh, this sucks.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
garbage." And Mark Grigsby, the animator, had a similar reaction where he was like, "This is stupid. Like, why would I want to play like this game? Like, you can't win."
And so like, we're
weird.
gonna make everything really slow. Is that what they did? Yeah, out of spite.
But yeah, like they were like, "Oh, thankfully, like smarter people knew what they were doing."
Yeah. I want to know who to credit, though. That's the tricky thing. It's like, okay, you could go Jason
Vince.
West, Vincent Bella, Steve Fukuda, I believe his name is, who became the kind of campaign director later on at Respawn. I'm sure he
Could
had a
have
big
been
hand in it.
Mohammed
Einstein?
Alavi. He-
Albert Einstein. Emmett Williams writes in about that saying, hey, the nuke scene hit me a little harder this time. I knew it was coming, but I started anticipating it way too soon, so it still surprised me. I forgot you're only in range of the blast to save the pilot. Makes it even more tragic. Plus, when you walk out, you can just sit there and watch her writhe in pain as she struggles to breathe. I didn't know that. He says, it was incredibly heartbreaking this time around. Maybe I've gained more empathy in the last decade, or maybe the graphical detail is high enough now that I can more easily notice these details, but it really affected me.
Yeah,
Maybe a
like
bit of both.
I made sure to like look at the other people to see how it was affecting them. It wasn't like, oh, they're just dead. It's like, no, they're like going through the same stuff your player character is, which was really tough to watch.
But at the same time, that's tough to watch. But did any of you care that Private Jackson went down?
No, because I don't really think of him as he wasn't a
This
character.
is zero.
I don't
right?
think I even knew his name at the time.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
that's- yeah,
oh,
it's a-
some character
Yeah,
died.
the people around you I was concerned with, but yeah,
Right.
the character you were playing as, he's not really a character.
Just
so,
irrelevant.
yeah.
Yeah.
You gonna say something? Shane? Okay, going good.
Just the well, I mean, like looking at the mushroom cloud and the
Yeah.
aftermath was like intense.
And also, I stared at it for a long time. I know I should have put like the Eclipse goggles on or something, but I stared right at that mushroom cloud because I'm like, is that just like a JPEG? Was like, oh no, it's actually moving. Like maybe in the remaster they made it look a lot better. But that, and then the two missiles taking off later on, it's like that just looks awesome. It looks so great.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a fun one. Ian Williams says, hey, I personally love running the obstacle course at the very start of the game. It was a real thrill learning the optimal route and using the pistol to gain accuracy bonuses. Did you guys like that part?
Yeah.
I remember really liking that part when it first came
I
out.
really like doing the timing
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
am I right? Like, it sets your difficulty depending on how slow you go through
Yeah.
that. That's a
Yeah.
really smart
That's what
idea.
I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, the Call of Duty 2, you were throwing potatoes in baskets. Like that was
Oh,
definitely
really?
a lot better. Yeah, I did have that moment where I forgot you're supposed to climb up to start. So it was like it's like, all right, go do the obstacle course. I was like, all right, and then I kind of like walked in
Yeah,
and walked
same
around
here.
it, and I was like, what am I supposed to say? So like from their perspective, I was just this newcomer who's like, all right, I'm gonna go do the obstacle course, and then I just like walked around the thing for like a few minutes.
My name's Soap, by the way. Hope you're cool with that.
For the time though, it was like a really good, like clever way to do a tutorial.
Yeah, I liked
mission.
it.
Yeah.
Like to kind of integrate it into just like the fiction of the world.
And
Yeah.
also be like, oh, this guy really sucks at first-person shooters. He should play on easy.
Yeah.
Ian Williams also says that his favorite moment, and this one stood out to me so much too, is when Gaz falls over while cutting the fence hole.
I wrote that down in my
What
notes
was
too.
that?
Well, yeah, because it stands out because he freezes it. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. And then instead of pushing it forward, he pulls it out towards him and it like falls on him.
And it's just like this very slow, silent beat of
Yeah.
him like,
yeah, I wrote a note. I was like, he's a military expert. Like, surely that wasn't the correct way to do that.
I know.
But yeah, it stood
panicking.
out. It was weird.
I wondered if it was like an inside joke on the team or like
Something
the
silly to
animators or
do.
something that like
bet.
one of the animators did something and they just thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
yeah, I bet, man.
I mean, I like it. It was. I didn't dislike it or anything.
There was a
but it just
lot
stood
more
out.
love for Gaz than I thought, where it's like, I don't think I even noticed him throughout the game. But everyone's like, oh, Gaz is one of the best too. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I guess he didn't
Definitely more of a price guy myself.
Well,
Is
why
that
was
right?
he cool?
I don't know.
Because the fence fell on him. When he
Yeah.
was, I honestly,
I guess
don't
his
know.
voice, he had a recognizable voice actor as well. Did you notice like just the amount of cameos that they had with those soldiers? Where one of them was like Private West or whatever.
It's all Private Emsley.
Oh, was there an
Yeah.
Emsley in there? The art director?
Private Dunkelberger.
That's good.
One
There
of
was
my favorites.
There was a Private Paul's Rudd.
Really?
Yeah.
One word.
Yeah,
okay.
Paul's Rudd. Yeah,
That's weird.
yeah. He didn't say anything, but he was just in one of those missions. Like, is that name what I think? Okay, sure.
Just an ageless creature.
Yeah,
Seeing as how I referenced him
I
earlier in
know,
this
isn't that
podcast, I
weird?
didn't even notice that.
yeah, it's super strange. Let's see. Okay, we're saving obviously a biggie, but here we go. Interesting detail. Jeff from Charlton, Massachusetts says the American levels were way more chaotic than I remembered. Other than the maroon hat guys, it was hard to know if I was shooting a friend or a foe. Yeah, that stood out to me as well. I really like that. Just having the British soldiers be so focused and just in their missions, they're professionals.
Small group.
Yeah, and then the first American level, which I believe is Charlie Don't Surf, where you're going up to the TV station.
Yeah.
Like I thought the environment was great, the shootout was great, but it's just like it feels like Team America or something out of the blue. It's like, rah, rah, let's go, wow, Private Jenks. It's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
holy God, this is chaotic.
And then changing out the music at the end just feels like a very American thing of like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's DJ this radio station a little
Right,
bit.
right. It's fun. It's just so different. I love that jarring tone. But did you guys notice that as well? Like having a tough time deciding who was the enemy here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
shot a lot of my
I
own
relied
guys.
a lot on pulling up the cursor and seeing the name pop
Yeah.
on screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it still took like a half a second before that happened, or before you realize it. And you're like, if you want to be fast, you'd have to start shooting before you like realize who you're shooting at.
Right.
Which bothered me.
Yeah. I love that mission in general. The idea of like going into the TV station felt so different, just that variety again. But I was like, okay, Al-Assad is live broadcasting. Like, are we just going to run in on camera and murder this dude? Like, aren't there producers hanging out in here as well? Like, it just seems weird to kick down the door, just fire up the entire TV studio that's currently, they think, broadcasting.
It was weird how many like enemies were showing up in that studio too. I thought it was like,
Yeah.
why are there so many bad guys in here? Like just the whole
Well, it was
city.
a trap, wasn't it?
I mean,
'cause
yeah,
it's a trap.
But again, like
Good,
there's nobody else who works there. It just seems
Yeah.
weird that that's
Yeah.
the only people who were there.
A lot of good explosive paper effects too.
Ooh, Josh Rogers writes in, Kyle.
Cool.
Is there anything more satisfying in an action game than when you're in a firefight and papers, glass, and other debris is flying through the air? That's what I was thinking while shooting through that large room with all the TVs and desks in the broadcast building. The game does those little details a moment in a scene so well that really sell the action. Yeah, that was awesome. And again, I'd like to go back and look at the original versus the remastered version, but just grenades going off and paperwork flying everywhere. It's just because it's so different. You don't expect to see that in a firefight like that.
Yeah.
What mission do you guys like?
All of them.
on.
So we talked about Charlie Don't Surf a little bit.
Yeah.
The bog was actually the first I saw of the game, and it's the moment where everyone puts on night vision goggles and the laser sights are up. And
Yeah.
you see like 30 laser sights like crisscrossing. I think I saw that on like G4
Really?
or something, and that was one of those moments where I was like, "I'm Mr. Halo," blah blah blah. I was like, "That looks pretty cool."
Yeah,
You
but
know?
I like to because it's like they should be used to this tech, but because it's a video game and you put on the night vision for the first time, it's like this night vision goggle is awesome. It's making it too easy. It's like,
Yeah.
we get
Yeah.
it. We get it.
Also hunted, like I didn't love moving through the farmland and the houses because it just felt closer to like World War II, like Call of Duty 2, which I was
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
excited to get away from that kind of stuff. So I did really like going in at night, playing one level, and then coming back during the day because it
Yeah.
really felt like you had been there for a long time and like
Right.
really stuck in there and like held out as long as you could. Which
And
was
this
cool.
is Heat, I think, when you're playing in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
So Matthew Theis also wrote in saying, I couldn't get past the mission called Heat, specifically the part where you must fight through the entire Russian ultranationalist army to get to the landing zone. This time around, I let my more shooter-literate brother do the mission for me, and he doesn't even know how he beat it. But that really stood out to him.
I did a lot of sprinting.
Yeah, I did too. I was way ahead of everybody, and I look back and like, oh, are they still fighting?
They
And
can handle themselves.
Helicopters landing, and then it felt very rushed of like, oh, I think this is supposed to be like, I'm on my last leg, barely crawling to the copter, and then it opens the doors, and you realize that, oh, finally the two worlds are colliding.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just like, get on the copter. Oh, wait, I guess, okay, those are the American guys? All right, fine.
Yeah.
Did that feel climactic to you guys when the worlds finally collided?
No.
No.
I was expecting more.
Yeah, that especially the first time I played it, I had a lot of trouble with that level, and like I was so frustrated by the time I got to the end. Like I finally did it that I didn't even wasn't even really paying attention to what was happening in the
Oh,
story.
okay, yeah. They have that light banter later on, again, just during the exposition loading sequence where they're like talking about warm beer, that's gross, and all that stuff. But outside of that, feel like I wanted more personal interaction. And then I realized at the end, like, oh, yeah, that's right, because there aren't really cutscenes in this game.
Right.
And not saying that it should have them, but it's just that weird thing of like, oh, that's right. It's kind of taking the Half-Life approach outside of these exposition-heavy loading screens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay.
So all gillied up, I really like.
Here we go.
Let's
All
do
right,
it.
we gotta talk about it.
We gotta talk about one of the best Call of Duty
I
levels.
guess we'll do it. Okay, here we go. Jeff from... Oh,
You're playing as Price in that one, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, and
Okay.
I think that's another reason why people like Price, right? Because he's a leader, as everybody pointed out, but then it's nice to see him almost as a rookie, right? Where he's clearly McMillan, is that the other guy?
Yeah.
Where he's looking down at him, calling like Bud, I forget what it is, but some smaller term of affection, right?
Yeah.
And you get to see that like, oh, Price knows what he's doing now because you played through what he did back then and he went through some S, right? Like it was a tough route.
Did you guys think it was weird that he was like effectively a silent protagonist in that level, even though he has a voice in the game? You're like, oh, but we're gonna stick to this. Like your character doesn't talk.
it didn't
Like,
stick out to me.
It was weird to me.
Yeah.
It felt very like separated from that character because he didn't talk.
I really hope that when you looked down the sight of your sniper, you would get just a quick glimpse of Price's face, like Metroid style, you know, or you just get like a flash of it, but it doesn't work.
Where the voice thing gets more weird is when the different Call of Duty studios later had different approaches. Like I think in Black Ops, the main character talks, but then like for Ghost, like I remember going on that cover story trip and then being like, oh no, for Infinity Ward games, the protagonist doesn't talk. That's just other Call of Duty games. Like we can't keep this stuff straight, you guys. We can't have different philosophies like this. Anyways, Jeff from Charlton says Chernobyl, gill it up level. He says Chernobyl level is by far the best level in the game. Even with the dated graphics, the location is haunting. The hotel, the Ferris wheel, and the school all reminded you of the people who lived there and were forced to move out.
Oh God, especially now that the HBO series took off so much.
This is how dumb I am. You know, I had never played this game before. Gillied up, I didn't know it was a flashback, and I didn't know it took place in Chernobyl. I knew it was just like, it's a ghillie suit sniper level. That's all I knew going in. So it's like,
cool.
oh, that's so much more interesting than I
So when
even
we were
thought.
talking with Infinity Ward about that level in particular, and they were like, yeah, you know, abandoned locations, and like, were you just like,
I was
oh.
nodding along, hoping no one was going to call me out. Yeah.
You were
Pop
nodding
quiz.
asleep.
What was that location?
I also like that a lot of that level, I guess those two levels you could say, like you're not shooting a lot, especially in the beginning. Like you're just having little, like a handful of bullets fired and then moving on and like.
And not even moving on, but it's the variety of you're taking your time shooting, taking your time, letting guys walk over you over and over again as you fail that over and over again. But then also it's like, okay, now run, right? It's like it's sprinting then for a little bit, right? Or now you're carrying him.
I mean, that's the best part about that level, I think, is like just how slow you go through it, and like it's guided so heavily that it makes you feel like you actually know what you're doing. Like,
well, not according to Colin from Woodridge, New Jersey. He says,
corrected.
When the game first came out, I absolutely loved All Gillied Up. I don't know why, but sneaking through the Chernobyl waste felt amazing. Playing through it today, however, I was bored out of my mind.
Oh, man.
Wait, go, hold up, go, get down, go. It was a semi-welcome break from the normal running and gunning, but man, give me some damn freedom next time, will ya?
That's probably just because he'd already played it before, right? Like he'd
Maybe.
already experienced
I mean,
it.
I'd already played it as well, but I really liked it this time.
Yeah,
around.
I mean the whole sequence of the army like coming over the hill.
It's cool.
Oh, well, you just have to like kind of
and you have to carefully
slowly
sort of,
shimmy.
Like, yeah, I love that.
I love that,
That's
but at the
so
same
cool.
time, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to be exactly where my commander is, and just like basically was crawling on top of him. I was like, well, I can't
I
fail
didn't
now,
do that.
but then the guards still saw me.
Yeah.
Like,
Really?
What the hell?
How did that happen?
Because I guess they wouldn't recognize him. They wouldn't register him as
weird.
Well,
protection.
there's two bushes on top of each other now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Writhing like snakes.
The first time it happened, I remember I was just like, I was watching the tank. I was like, I bet I picked a good spot. And I was watching the tank go by, and I was like facing away from the army, and someone just stepped on me. I was like, oh, okay.
The animations really cracked me up too because they're so exaggerated. Like the soldiers are like looking around so much, like they're just walking through a field. They'd be like shooting the ass and talking to each other, you know?
In my memory of it too, I was trying to think like, oh, it's going to be ridiculous. Like you're walking right behind this guy as they look the other way. But playing through it, maybe they do a good job of like putting you in this tunnel. It's like just pay attention to what's in front of you, and like when you're in the moment, it feels like you're really sneaking by dudes. At least for me, like that's how I felt.
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
very into it.
Forrest Lastman says he didn't enjoy it. It felt like just like a really simple, dumb stealth level. I disagree, Forrest.
I mean, I think that's fair because it is very on rails. Like I think I liked it because it is like almost like a cinematic moment of being like, you know, pulled through this interesting sort of story beat, you know.
Yeah.
But if you really love the shooting in Call of Duty and you just want to like get behind cover and pop dudes, like that's not that level.
Also, what stood out to me so much in that mission was, well, even playing through a majority of the game, especially up until that point, there wasn't that much music, or the music would kick in later on in the mission. That level correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's music from the beginning, and it's like an amazing score. And I think that's also why it has a big impact on people, right? Including then when you get to the environments, you can hear like the echoes of like kids laughing and stuff, like in those abandoned buildings, kind of like a ghost story vibe. Like it's just so different acoustically. But let's talk about this thing. Handsome Jack from New York says the best moment in the game is holding the line as young Captain Price with Macmillan at the Ferris wheel. On regular difficulty, at least. Above that, it becomes tedious and way too hard. But setting Claymore mines and hearing them blow up bad guys while you're frantically sniping other bad guys as they pour in like World War Z zombies is still one of my favorite video game levels. Let's see.
Yeah, watching the timer go down.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And he says,
great.
here, you need to thin their ranks or get overrun or gang charged, as some might say. Then again, what do I know? I'm a Medal of Honor guy, he says.
If you're a Medal of Honor guy, you're basically a Call of Duty guy.
I think you're safe.
So are we going to talk? I don't want to step on any toes here, but
Don't.
are we going to talk about the shot?
It's coming up.
Okay.
After this, though, Brian from Gainesville, Florida says, I first jumped on the Call of Duty train with Modern Warfare 2, so it wasn't until recently that I played Modern Warfare using my PlayStation Plus account. I tend to play this franchise in veteran difficulty because I'm a bit of a completionist and regenerating health makes it pretty easy. But that carnival section, man, what a difficulty spike. It took me 2 hours to make it to the chopper.
Wow.
So
That was the toughest part of the game for me, too.
that is where the game glitched out on me, and I had to replay that entire mission.
Oh, really?
So I got to the very end of it, and I died right as like the helicopter was about to pull down, and it was like it just got frozen on like the quote screen, and it's like
that's a
I had to
bummer.
leave, and it was like, and I went back in, and it was like, all right, do you want to like rejoin the mission currently in progress? I was like, hell yeah, I do, and it was like back at like where you're gonna take the shot. I'm like, damn it.
Oh, wow. What was your favorite quote from the game, by the way? It was weird seeing like Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice stuff in there. It's like,
yeah.
oh yeah, 2007. That's right.
The cost of a single Javelin missile, $80,000.
Yeah, we're who said that? Albert Einstein?
Also, yeah. Well, it also is like
Paul Rudd.
we spent a lot of money on this stuff.
It is weird just to throw in factoids
Yeah.
like that. It's like, I understand tips, I understand war quotes, and then just like, by the way, this stuff is expensive. AC-130 is like a gazillion
Yeah,
dollars
yeah.
or whatever.
Did you guys like that shootout though at the Ferris wheel?
I did.
Yeah,
I
I
loved
liked it,
when I
yeah.
found out that I could shoot the enemies as they're coming down the ropes from the helicopters. Like, so I could wait in there and like, bam,
That's fun.
bam, bam, and they all just fall. That was very satisfying.
Yeah, for some, maybe I'm just a dissenting opinion, but like I could have done away with that part and been happier. Like everything else about that level, like the sneaking in, the shot, like all that stuff, I like, but the end part of it just feels like, oh, okay, well, you've been not shooting things for a long time. You got to shoot stuff.
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I liked just how different it was. I liked the idea of Macmillan, like, put me somewhere so I can help out. And the fact you get
It's like
to
a
see him.
sentry
and his-
turret.
Yeah, he does an amazing job helping you take out those guys. But where I was frustrated is, I think it was the first time I played it, like, I made it to the chopper, and then I think was it somebody else or was it myself? But I just yelled out, like, where's Macmillan? You hear that, and I was like, oh, crap, I have to go get that guy? Went and got him, went in there, was sitting down, and then it faded to black. You ran out of time.
Oh, what? Oh,
And I was like, I'm in the chopper, man. I'm
that sucks.
sitting down right now. Give me this win. Okay. Emmett Watkins says, I'm sure I'm the only one going for them, but the trophy list for the game really encourages playing within the boundaries of the game to see what happens. This is for the remastered version, I'm assuming. In All Gillied Up, you can assassinate the antagonist from Modern Warfare 3 in a background car, therefore
Really?
breaking continuity. Also, despite it being a stealth mission, you can still alert the passing helicopter to your position and actually take it out thanks to a hidden weapon cache. Both these little quirks and more are rewarded in the trophy list.
That's cool.
Interesting.
I like that a lot.
That's crazy that he's just... so with the remaster, they probably added the Modern Warfare 3 villain, right? To the car? Or you think
That's
he's
a
in
good
there?
question. I don't know.
Yeah.
probably didn't. Yeah, they probably weren't thinking
I don't
about it when
think
they
they-
first made the game.
Like, I don't think they like overhauled the game that much. Like, that
Maybe.
seems like more than they would have done. But that's really cool. I like that.
I was confused. I missed a lot of shots. And then it was like, oh, I finally hit him in the arm. Great. And then later on, it's like, oh, he's missing the arm. So does it dial it in so no matter what, you hit him in the arm?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that they do that a little bit by like watch the wind, watch the flag.
Yeah.
So like you don't really know if you fully got, because like when I remember when I played back in the day, I had the cursor like on his head. I was so certain. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Well, that's weird. And then it became apparent that I was like, oh, that's a story. Like that was supposed to
And then
happen.
the final cutscene was him like without a head, just like walking up like the headless horseman.
Yeah, that's right.
I missed that shot many times.
Yeah.
And then I finally got it on the first try on one of my playthroughs, and I recorded that footage. I was very proud.
That's, I'm not like a great first-person shooter, but back then and even this time, I got it my first try. I don't know if I was just taking longer.
I don't know how I'm so good at this.
Well, like
Somebody stop
I'm not
me.
bragging because like I'm not good at sniping and shooters in general. It's like not my best genre. So I don't know if it's just because I took so much time to line up the shot. Like I really let the sort of cutscene play out pretty long. So
I took so long the first time I did it that he left.
Well, I can't think of anything else to
I
talk
guess.
about here.
Should we go to his home now? Should we?
It's another mission, or just sneak around his home.
Yeah.
there actually one moment real quick back up before all gillied up. The moment where you're trying to interrogate the guy,
Yeah.
and he gets the cell phone call,
Yeah.
and I liked the sort of like compactness of the story, and like just Price being an expert at what he does, of being like, I know who that voice is. I don't need anything else from this guy.
Bam.
Like I just love how quick that is.
I was
you know?
amazed that so much that is blacked out. It's a good reminder of what you can get away with in video games, which is like fades to black. You hear Price beating the hell out of this guy, and it's for quite a while. Then it fades back in. It's like,
Well, that confused me. I was like, is this to save on animation costs? Like
That's
I
what I
couldn't
was
figure
thinking.
out what because
or
nowhere
just
else in
gore,
the game
maybe.
they do this.
Yeah, maybe the ESRB made them.
Yeah. I want to know what happened there because I
Yeah.
feel like they maybe had something and they cut it.
Yeah, I'm curious too. But with the snipe here, Jacob from Buffalo, New York says, "Hey there, this isn't just an observation annoyance that has bothered me for years. But you said you wanted a deep dive, so here we go. At the apex moment of all gillied up, when you take the long shot at the antagonist with the 50 cal, I've always been annoyed at Captain McMillan's rather flippant use of the Coriolis effect and needing to take it into account at a sniping distance. The Coriolis effect is something which is compensating for the Earth's rotation, is something that very long-range flights need to think about. They will need to use more fuel than standard mileage might suggest because the flight is pushing against the rotation of the Earth, therefore traveling a further distance. A commercial flight travels at approximately 500 miles an hour, while the muzzle velocity of the weapon all gillied up. The 50 cal is approximately 850 meters per second, which is about 4 times the speed of an airliner. The maximum range of the M82 or 2000 M is approximately blah, 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 blah. Basically, he says he maps out the geography, every detail about this, and says, that being said, I love the ballistics model and how it actually responds to the wind elevation and variant humidity. But he says that it does not make sense that the Coriolis effect would be
Hey
brought
man,
up
this
in
is like the
situation.
early '90s when
Interesting.
this sequence takes place. They didn't know that.
They didn't.
Yeah, science is different now.
I still thought the Earth
You're
was
right.
flat back then.
That's true. Here we go. Carl Jones says, my favorite moment in the game must be when the two nukes launch in the distance towards the end of the game and you realize that it just got pretty real. That the nukes have wheels. In that same light of thought, during the cutscene of when the nukes are traveling through space and it's giving the player their information, the warheads are labeled as being individually 550 kilotons. This may seem like a lot, but it's actually not. During the height of our nuclear testing back in the 50s, the U.S. tested a 15 megaton bomb called Castle Bravo. Castle Bravo is 30 times more powerful than the individual warheads used in the game.
All right.
Huh.
Military nerds, military
That's kinda cool,
nerds.
actually.
Interesting,
I
yeah.
love it, man. Yeah, I love that sequence. I didn't expect those nukes to go off, and I love that.
So
it
those
happens
nukes really
just
wouldn't have done that much damage, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like a
they're
light
just kinda
tickle to DC, I believe.
Tiny, like, bonk.
It is still that weird idea that in that pivotal moment, they let Soap handle that. Like, put in the code, Soap, rookie who just could barely get through an obstacle course. Like, you got this,
I
right?
thought that was funny too because I was lost for some reason. I was like, "Where am I supposed to go?"
Yeah.
And they're like waiting like
There's no time.
2 minutes for like Soap. Get over here and do this. Like, meanwhile, there's
Pointing at
another
it.
guy right next to the computer.
Yeah.
That that had the moment where the door starts opening.
Yeah.
I really like that where like Bryce is like, can we speed this up at all?
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny.
And it's like, is it loading, or is it just for the sake of a joke? Because I think those few jokes in
know.
the end, especially with Griggs, I think work out pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Except for when Imran's son or whatever like shoots himself,
I think I have the quote.
what does he say?
Say, shit, this kid's got some issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
buddy.
All right.
All right, buddy.
All right.
That level's. I like that level a lot, by the way.
You're chasing? Yeah.
that
because I like that you don't
seriously
even
cool.
see him, and you're just getting the call out of like, okay, go this way, go this way.
Yeah.
On the keyboard thing real fast, Michael Fulton says, the keyboard that Soap uses to disarm the missiles at the end of the game is a standard QWERTY keyboard for the English language. Russian has an entirely different alphabet, and I can't think of a good reason that this keyboard would be in a Soviet-era missile base.
Take that, Infinity Ward.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
exactly. Do your research, you
Probably
cowards.
Yeah.
type in "stop the missiles" in there or something.
Yeah,
You know.
I guess so. Will Paulette also says the final mission with the car chase feels like it's straight out of James Bond, and it kind of kills the whole hardcore military vibe that the game has going up until that point.
That felt like a Halo ending to me.
Oh, interesting.
I got,
First-person shooter campaign, gotta have the last level be in a vehicle. you know?
Yeah.
I got Metal Gear vibes out of that.
Metal Gear Solid 1.
Gear
Yeah,
Solid,
I'm
yeah,
used to
absolutely.
like the Metal Gear
And 3
chasing.
as well.
Yeah.
Which taught me what a Halo jump was for the ultimatum levels.
Yeah,
So I was
that's
like,
true.
I don't need any background on this. I'm ready.
Carmine Severis writes in just talking about how Modern Warfare 3 turned the series into an action film, and talking also about like the end of the game and how that kind of gets that ball rolling, where it just feels like a different tone. Even it was the first time they had slow-mo, right? Like Sidney Cox says, my favorite moment is the final minutes when Price slides you his gun, you take out Zakhaev and his goons. Also can't wait for the full Final Fantasy VII Remake Game Club in 2030. Yeah, that'll be fun.
The funny thing about that slow motion sequence, which is very cool, is like they realized in time for Modern Warfare 2, they're like, oh, we can do this the whole campaign. This doesn't have to be a
just do it
finale
everywhere.
thing.
I seriously had the thought towards the end of the campaign. I was like, there hasn't been one burst through a door slow motion sequence. Like, what is the
Yeah.
origin of that? When is that coming?
I think
It's like,
Modern
turns
Warfare.
out.
Yeah, Modern Warfare 2, right? Was
Okay.
the first one
Well,
to
that's
do
when
it?
they do
this-
the burst through the door. But
Right,
like,
but
Yeah.
this one with that. Emmett Watkins says, the first time I played through this game, my biggest criticism is that the ending just kind of happened. I didn't feel like there was much lead up to killing the bad guy. You just get caught up in an admittedly neat car chase and end up running into him. Just like the first time, despite the many cool moments in the campaign, I'm feeling this was it. Crazy they later would make Modern Warfare 3, which had an infinitely more satisfying ending with the big showdown on the roof and all that
it is
stuff.
weird that the bad guy shows up there at the end and he's like, wait, why is he exposing himself to shoot us? Like,
Right.
is it really that personal?
Why
Why
was
does
he
he look
there?
like John Malkovich? It's an odd vibe overall.
It's weird that Price yelled that at you. Get Malkovich.
Yeah, that
guy."
was weird. Surely you aren't serious.
Oh, we'll talk about Shirley in a
Malka,
bit.
stick this up your...
Kyle, you want to talk about Shirley?
Yeah, for the Mile High Club. there's a-
What was that?
Okay, so my understanding of what that is it is meant to, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but even at the time when that came out, that was my reaction. I worked at GameStop, and I remember going in and talking to customers and my coworkers and being like, "What was that level? What did that have to do with anything?"
Yeah.
And my understanding was that it is like on the higher difficulties, it is one of the most challenging levels in the whole game, and it's there explicitly for that purpose. Like, this is really hard. See if you can beat this.
Well, Justin from Alexandria seems to know what you're going to say, Kyle. And he says, I did it. I couldn't do it back in 2007, but here we are nearly 12 years later, and I finally got the infamous Mile High Club achievement. This achievement requires you to beat that last mission in less than a minute on veteran difficulty.
Oof. Yeah.
Huh.
Also, the completion percentage for that on 360 is 3%.
Wow.
So it's like just a challenge thing? Does it
I think
tie into
so.
Modern Warfare 2's story?
I don't think so. I could be
What
wrong about
is
that.
Well, I wonder if it was like a level they were prototyping and
Maybe.
that in the campaign that got cut, but then it was close enough to finish that they just tacked it on to
could
the
be.
end.
I mean, it's a cool level.
It is super
Like
cool.
being
yeah.
up in the plane and like cramped quarters and stuff. But it's a weird, it's a post-credit sequence. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Kyle,
very weird.
how do you know this? Chase from
Huh.
Oregon writes in and says, I just finished Modern Warfare this weekend, and a thought occurred to me. Why don't more games have post-credits missions? Mile High Club is one of my favorite missions in the game. I remember it being a really nice surprise when I first beat the game over 10 years ago. Movies do this. Why don't more games?
There's also the sort of the loading screen talk before that level. I don't know the exact wording, but Price says something along the lines of "Don't call me Shirley."
Well, yeah, it's because they play... Well, because of the rap, right? They play
that's-
like
oh,
we're
God,
going
the
deep
rap.
and we're going hard.
with sound clips from like E3
Yeah.
shows.
Yes,
and stuff.
exactly.
That's so weird.
Yeah, and so then because of that, Price says, or somebody says, Shirley, you can't be serious. He's like, I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Which is that meant to be like a reference to the film Airplane?
Because
And
you're
then-
about to go on an airplane?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I guess
I
so.
guess.
What else would it be?
I don't know.
I don't know what that
literally
yeah, I
that's
guess.
Oh, that's what that line is from Airplane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Okay.
And then Kate
Now
Onder.
you like that level.
Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite level.
Kate Onder says, hey, real topic. What the hell's up with that rap song laid over the end credits? It reminds me of Mickey Rourke rap at the end of Road Warrior or a Will Smith movie rap.
Oh, I
There's
see
an
that.
answer to that on GameInformer.com/Modern Warfare.
Yeah, in the rapid fire interview, we talked to Mark Grigsby, who's now the lead animator, was an animator back then, and he also plays the character Griggs in the game.
And
Yes,
what else does he do in that game?
raps.
He raps.
Oh, he's the guy
he
who
wrote,
wrote the rap.
he
Going
wrote
there.
and performed the rap.
Right, and he's like, oh, I was just messing around, and then I figured, yeah, why not? And we asked him if he's going to make a rap for the new one. And he said, I'm just trying to finish the game. I have some ideas floating around, but I'm not locked in on it yet.
Basically, if he has time,
Yeah.
he's going
It
to.
is. I don't like it. Like because I feel like the game is very serious up to that
Yeah.
point. I mean, there's little jokes here and there, but like it ends on sort of a dark note of like murdering this guy, and then cut to black, and like sort of what feels kind of like a fun but like silly rap song, like explaining what the game was. It
Rhyme,
feels a little
divine,
strange.
yeah.
But
That's
the
the
Go Deep, Go Hard was something that they said at the E3 press
Right.
conference.
Yes.
Which was like a big inside joke at the studio.
Well, it
apparently.
wasn't on the teleprompter. He just like went off script, and then like
I
his
guess
words
so.
got jumbled, and then like the team thought it was really funny.
Yes.
And so it became a big inside joke, and they made shirts like "Go Deep, Go Hard."
Right.
It's interesting.
It's good stuff. And we asked Grigsby if he's going to be in the new game. If Griggs is going to be in the new game, and he's like, I can't voice him. There's like, a SAG-AFTRA or whatever, weird guild reasons. What's the word I'm looking for?
I got it.
Union?
Actors Guild.
Union. Yeah, all that stuff. But I'd be surprised if they didn't have some reference to a Griggs in that new game. Do you think any other characters would be coming back?
Price.
Well,
So-
Price is obviously coming back. I think at some point Soap will come through, or like they'll have
Some
like
sort of
there's-
reference to him.
Yeah, they have like the Kyle character with the Alex character. At some point, they're gonna like reveal that their nickname is Soap, kind of like Robin at the end of Dark Knight
Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
Rises or something.
Maybe Private Dunkelberger will be back.
Yeah,
Was
Paul's
it-
Rudd.
Was it 2 when
Actually voiced by Paul Rudd.
when Ghost showed up, the guy with like the skull mask?
Yes.
That was 2, right?
Yes, I
But do you
believe
think
so.
they would like bring him back?
I
Like,
bet
'cause
they
people
would.
really seem to like him.
Yeah, for sure.
That'll be for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. They'll bring him back.
A lot of people love it. Emmett Watkins also wrote in saying, "Hey, the game is a lot less linear than I recalled. Missions here feel like they're maps with objectives rather than scripted levels or corridors like Halo 1." Take that, Kyle.
Shots fired, Kyle.
Yeah, that's
fair.
What do you think of that? Yeah, I guess a lot of people were saying it's still pretty linear, but I think the variety was enough. I wasn't really
it's still
annoyed
fun.
by going down.
Linearity is not really a bad word to me if it's executed well.
Sure. A lot of people wrote in. Jacob from Raleigh, Josh Smith, Justin Pagowski talking about enemy AI and just the spawning. Since that was a big discussion back in the day, did you guys notice that? Was that a big issue for you? Was just noticing that like, oh, there's these infinite spawn points? Because I didn't really notice it.
Well, are there infinite spawn points?
That's the idea. If you don't clear a certain point or like walk past a certain point, enemies will just keep coming. But I never really hit that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did notice where it's like, man, there's a lot of guys coming out. It feels like more than there should be. Like
Yeah.
a couple points, but it never felt infinite. It
I
just
feel-
felt like they keep coming. There's a monster closet somewhere.
Yeah.
I feel like it was more well managed than World at War's campaign. I don't know if you ever played World at War's campaign, but at the end there is like this stairway you have to get up, and there's just enemies constantly flooding towards you. And like I remember, I was just like, they're just not going to stop coming.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing for me is like at the time, because of Call of Duty 2, which is way, way worse about it, like this felt like an improvement. So I was perfectly satisfied with it.
Right. Let's see. Chris Reichert played it on Veteran. He said it was really satisfying, but incredibly challenging. A lot of people actually were playing on Veteran. Thank you for writing in. Congratulations, everybody. Omar. Omar wrote in and says first. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Cade who also says, I wanted to ask, did anybody else beat this game on Veteran? I did it twice, and I'll never do it again. It was miserable. The mission where you have to escape back to the chopper after killing Al-Assad at his farm safe house is wildly rage-inducing. No, we're cowards. Omar Sluman wrote in saying, I noticed in the prologue of Call of Duty 4 that the original had better Arabic voice acting than the remastered. They redid the Arabic, and he said the original was better.
That's
He
interesting.
speaks Arabic, yeah.
Huh.
Random trivia facts from Thomasville, Georgia.
Love it.
He says, I didn't collect these myself. I pulled them from IMDb or the Call of Duty wiki. Let's see. Apparently, on the final mission, Gaz shouts out, "Stop the bloody truck!" But he's the one driving. In All Gillied Up, Captain Price states that the mission is a decade after the Chernobyl disaster, making it set in 1996. All Gillied Up is 15 years in the past, so that means that the game is set in 2011. It's fun math. It's the first Call of Duty game that was rated M, and it was banned in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates.
That's wild to me
How
that
is-
the ones in World War II weren't M.
Yeah. Well, World at War was like the bloodiest, right? And so that was after
And
this.
that wasn't. Oh, that was after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the one right after, right?
The one with flamethroers or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That one had some brutal moments.
Brutal
That's for sure.
moments.
So did this one.
That's true. Are you guys ready for the best emails?
Yeah.
Nick O wrote in, said, for this game club, I decided to shake things up a little bit. I opted to take a look at the Nintendo DS version of Call of Duty 4
Yes.
Modern Warfare.
Nice.
The game was developed by N-Space, who made the DS ports of GoldenEye and Star Wars Force Unleashed. And I won't sugarcoat it. This version of the game is a steaming garbage factory from which there is no escape. I couldn't find the Game Informer review, but I'm very curious to hear what the score was. I'm sure by 2007 standards, it was a neat touch-based version of the game, but good God, playing it over the past 2 weeks has been agonizing.
That's hilarious.
The AI is worthless. Instead of Price sliding the pistol to you and you get to take out Zakev during the finale, you just waltz around the bridge, shoot a couple enemies, then a helicopter comes to save you and your companions who are stuck in a T-pose, as they inevitably are at the end of every mission. I understand there are technical limitations, but you should check out the game on replay.
Wait,
we
so-
tried doing a replay of that game, and it was so bad that we did not air it.
It's still like a first-person shooter?
Yep.
I freelance.
that's wild.
I freelance reviewed the DS version of Black Ops.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Wow.
I played with the stylus and yeah.
Remember Black Ops Declassified on Vita? Remember what S show that was?
Yeah.
No one talks about that. Also, Travis from Scottsdale, Arizona says, I love that the Game Club is back, and it's the first one I've written in for. I'm sure you guys are getting a ton of emails, so I'll try to keep this short. While I read the article on GameInformer.com for the Game Club, it reminded me that Call of Duty 4 has a DS version, and I decided to play that one.
Oh, really?
Two people played the
That's
DS
awesome.
version. Here's a quick rundown. First and perhaps most importantly, the campaign has nothing to do with the story of the console version. It is just a bunch of generic COD missions thrown together. No Captain Price, no all gillied up, nothing.
But you still kill
The other guy,
Zakharov?
I guess so. The other guy said that Price slides you the pistol, but maybe that's different.
No, he said he
No,
doesn't.
he doesn't.
You just,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
walk
you're right. You're
around
right. Yeah,
and-
yeah, yeah. He says, I don't have a ton of thoughts about it, but the controls were interesting. Outside of moving and shooting, the touchpad did everything. The face buttons and the D-pad both controlled movements. You could play with your preferred hand. It's only about 3 to 4 hours long, so it's worth checking out just to see how a COD
Is it?
experience feels on DS. Thanks for reading. I can't wait for the next Game Club. Thank you. Everybody that wrote in to podcast@GameInformer.com, heroes. I think it's our most emails ever for a Game
Really?
Club. Yeah.
Wow.
This is really taking off.
Other thoughts that we haven't conveyed about it? I guess, did you guys enjoy the game?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Better, worse than you remembered?
More affecting than I remembered, and I think it's just because of the modern day and where I am, just emotionally and personally as a
So,
human being.
okay.
Like in the past, it was definitely just like a fun action romp, but I felt worse about I felt like a bad person sometimes playing this game.
Right, and not just because, you're playing a shooter in 2090. It's specifically because of the bold strokes that they took.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily like a knock against the game. It's just I just had a different emotional experience playing it this time than I did in the past.
Right. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Kyle, I'm sorry, Reeves, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I still liked it. I think I liked it less than I did the first time. And I don't know, I couldn't quite pinpoint what that was. I think it's just like the industry has kind of like moved on. Things like Uncharted have like taken that sort of bombastic, crazy, like set piece stuff to new levels.
Yeah.
But I still thought it held up better than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had a pretty good time going through it. I agree that it holds up really well. I think that AC-130 mission is the most fascinating thing in there, over and above the nuke. That part was much more riveting, even after hearing about it for so many years. Like, that tone was just bizarre. Brian Shea?
I overall liked it. I think there are moments where I was like, oh yeah, level design has moved beyond this.
Yeah.
But not that many for me.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I was struck most by like how modern it still feels. Like it's not like, oh, this is a relic from the past, like Halo 1 feels like.
Right.
Shut your mouth.
That's it. Thanks to everybody that participated in Game Club. If you like this, you can subscribe to the Game Informer Show podcast or follow us on YouTube. You know, we also have an audio version, whichever you prefer. We'll do one in the future, by God. Somebody wrote in a while ago saying we should do Jedi Fallen Order, and that seems like a pretty good
That
contender.
seems good.
And that's coming out sooner than you think, so we'll see if we can squeeze in anything else between that. I want to do Spec Ops The Line. But we'll see. Maybe everybody's militaried out after this big old discussion. But that's it for this overall episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday, and we'll have a new episode for you. Stay frosty!
Bye.